There we go. What's up, everybody? We got it working. Holy crap. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's hopefully get some sound checks going on because we are running blind and stupid again. So let me know. Hopefully you guys can hear and see everything just fine. Everything's showing like it should be working. In fact, I can see why things might be fucked up.
Yep, the visual looks good on YouTube.
All right, good.
And audio sounds good too.
All right, I'm not blurry. You're not blurry.
I'll probably be a little bit blurry and delayed again. I don't know. We had the nice crispness of the melon for me for a week, but I need to be nerfed again.
You need to be nerfed. All right, guys, bear with me. There might be some echoing because I'm going to... Come on, piece of shite.
We are continuing to experiment with streaming software, so once again, please excuse any teething pains and whatnot. We're trying to deliver continuously better content, and with it comes growing pains.
Yep. Looks good. Yeah, we're not echo. Okay, looks good. I like how it looks. All right, guys. So, sorry about that. Hello and welcome, everybody. As you guys can see, we've got a whole bunch of new features now because I tried Melon. Melon was cool, but I hate it because it's very basic. And it's okay, but I didn't feel like spending $14 a month or whatever it is to do what I can do for free using OBS style software. So what we're going to be doing instead is I figured out how to use the Streamlabs version of OBS, which, as you guys can see, allows me to pump a whole lot of cool stuff on the screen now. That means the chats are all on the screen. When you guys super chat me, it's going to pop up. You can even see, of course I screwed it up. Let me fix it here. 1 second. I did screw it up a little bit. Hold on.
I want to point out, I
there
like
it is.
how...
You can even see the viewer chat at the top. You can see how many people are watching. The whole fucking nine. It's great.
Nice. I like how the one night I decide to actually wear sleeves, you're in a tank top.
I ordered a bunch of new ones. If they look good, I'm going to put them up. I made a Legion tank top coming. So that's going to be coming soon. Yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to it. So if it's going to take like a month for me to get them. So long as they don't look like shit, I'll put them up for everybody. So yeah, so this is pretty good. I like this. I'm able to do a lot of cool effects. I can potentially stream stuff as tickers on the bottom. When you guys super chat, it's going to pop up as an alert. It's going to be really cool. So forgive us if we're a little disorganized at first. We might be having a couple of guests tonight. We might not. So we're going to make this... Originally, we were going to be talking about a specific topic, which may still come up because our guest may still call in one of them. But if they don't, we're going to make this a Q&A night. So hopefully everything's good. But what I'd like to talk about a little bit at first is there's a little bit of confusion going on about what my last post on basically Facebook and YouTube and everything was about. What it really boils down to is, I mean, he sort of told me I could make this announcement for him. That's fine, but I don't see myself as his herald, and I'm not like his personal assistant or anything. I felt like it would probably be better coming mostly from him. So I'm going to announce it anyway, though, because he said it's fine if I do. So EA Coetting and Timothy Donahue both got deplatformed off of Facebook sometime yesterday. They're pretty sure they know why. They're pretty sure they know who flagged them and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of drama, right? A lot of it's probably drama oriented. But it's neither here nor there. He's pissed off, but it's something that is also kind of a welcome problem because frankly, Facebook is one of the most toxic places aside from maybe Twitter that exists.
Get off Facebook, everybody.
It's absolutely useless. And it's, if it wasn't for the fact that I can reach a bunch of people there besides on YouTube, like it's just another platform I can use, and people are coming in the door, so forgive the sound. If it wasn't for the fact that it's another platform we can use, and I realized I'm probably echoing, at least Fleshy is. If not for the fact that it's another platform that I can use, I probably wouldn't touch it except to troll people. I'd have like a troll account, and I would just be harassing people and being a dick all day. Because it's one of the most toxic places that I know online. YouTube, as bad as YouTube comments can be, are a wonderland of kindness by comparison, because generally people don't hate watch you more than once or twice. They don't spend time coming to harass you. But something about Facebook in particular, people just love to start drama and keep it there, and they just keep it going there forever. You know, and of course, you know, I'm becoming a little friendly with VK finally. Like, he and I met because of some of the drama that's going on. Not met personally, but we met online more. And he's almost got me convinced to go on TikTok. Here I am bitching about fucking Facebook, and I'm thinking about starting to use TikTok a little bit. Like, what am I, stupid, Fleshy?
I no comment on the TikTok thing. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit too boomer for TikTok.
No positive comment, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people like the audio of the door closing. I should have that as like a sound effect for when people join chat and shit. Clunk, clunk. That'd be pretty cool. It'd get really noisy around here though. So what I decided to do as a result, and of course somebody made a comment and I ended up like deleting it, whatever, about how like, stop crying about Facebook, just do your, it's like, all right, whatever. You guys got to understand, as a sort of, oh yeah, Aaron wants to be a guest. By the way, that's going to show up now whenever you type me a chat.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Okay.
So, but yeah, so, where was I, damn it? Oh yeah. So, it made me realize that, you know, as someone who is I guess you'd call me a minor celebrity, as a content creator, I cannot have 20 different accounts and still do my business. They know that. You need to have one place on every platform that people can come to and find your content. Otherwise, what's the point? So just making a whole fuck ton of alts, which I have a whole metric fuck ton of alts that I use for all kinds of shit. But instead of making a bunch of alts so I'm like ban proof, because that doesn't actually end up working, because they'll find, especially if you're like a public pro, like if you do what I do, like it'll turn up. They can excise you whenever they see you, right? So it's not really useful that way. So what I've decided to do is create a very important sign up that you guys can do for email. So you can sign up your email and get regular subscription updates for everything that I do. Yes, I'm going to throw some ads at you and crap from time to time. That's just how I have to do things. But it's going to be meant so that when I release something, you no longer have to rely on the notification services of Facebook or YouTube or even Discord. It will go into your email, and if you're like me, you check your email, you know, at least once in a while. And you should be able to find out that I've got stuff that came out. I am also thinking of transitioning a little bit more towards doing regular streams rather than pre-recorded videos. Not because I don't like doing the pre-recorded videos, but because I'm kind of running dry on topics to make videos about, short of just rerunning videos. So I'm thinking I'm going to do maybe 2 or 3 streams a week, most of them solo. We'll still have the fleshy show, Thursdays for sure. But I'm thinking about doing some daytime streams, like maybe on Tuesdays, something like that. Maybe I'll do a Tuesday afternoon stream for those of you who can't really watch me at night, who for some reason love me enough to want to watch me at all hours. So you'll be able to do that. I'll be able to do a couple. What do you think, Fleshy? Good idea?
Yeah, I think so. I think that could work pretty nice.
Yes.
I like the idea of you having live feedback and interaction during a topic too.
I like it too. That's not to say that I don't like doing things the old way, and I'll still do them. It's just, you know, sometimes you just don't really know what you want to say anymore. You know, it's like there's a lot I could talk about, but I'm also deep in the zone of creation right now, writing wise, and it's like I want to have that released as a book. I don't want to just talk about it and have it all like come out of my, because you know, as a creator, I have this one flaw. If I talk too much about what I'm doing, like if I show somebody the unfinished project, something inside me is satisfied and I can't finish it. Like I'm like, oh, I got some.
Yeah, because it's like, it's old news now. It was done.
Mm-hmm. Something psychological like breaks, and I just can't. I don't feel good anymore. So, you feel me? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, I completely understand. I'm the same way. And you have a lot of writing ahead of you. Didn't the hard drive that fucking out? That was the one that your book was on, wasn't it?
That was hysterical to me because my haters thought that they successfully cursed me with like a death hex because they just missed. Because I put a doctored photo of my computer up. It wasn't on fire. There was no smoke. It was literally just, it stopped working. And I found out that it's the hard drive. It's not even my operating system hard drive. It's the one where I have all my data backed up. So yes, I should have had another backup, but that died. The good news is there's nothing but good news. Literally, the only thing that happened was a minor inconvenience. It was literally a minor inconvenience that's basically delayed some things. Because yes, at the moment I have lost a lot of content that I created. All my art that's not backed up somewhere online is gone. All my videos that are not backed up online is gone. All my books are gone, unless they're on Amazon or something. So that means I can't even like edit them and re-release them now. I'd have to like either download something and strip it, or something else. I might have one on my, actually I might have them some other places. But the point is, the original files are gone at the moment. Now, the good news is, the computer still works, so I'm going to be giving that to a friend who really needed it as like a charitable act. He hasn't had a computer in a year because the one he had broke down before COVID, and he hasn't been able to buy a new one. So I'm giving him at the time that I bought it, a pretty beefy, it's still a nice enough computer. Most people would like to have it. So he's getting that. I bought this fucking monster rig, this $3.3 thousand gaming editing monster that like you could get better, but I wouldn't want to meet the person who could afford that. And I was able to afford it because I got a windfall from the IRS that week. So literally, like, if somebody did curse me, it so far was like, oh no, I stubbed my toe. So then on top of that, my son's girlfriend's father is like a huge IT guy. And he, for fun, dismantles and reassembles hard drives. And at last word, it's taking a long time because it takes a while to transfer things over USB. But at the last I heard, chances are very good I'll be getting back most of my computer. So we'll see. I don't want to jinx it. It could end up being a false hope, but it really looks probable that we will be getting getting my hard drive back, which I'm really looking forward to. So, woohoo!
We have a super chat from Nina the Mystic with that glorious 666. She says, "Greetings. I love the idea of a Tuesday day show. I'm around and can mod for you if needed." Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Nina. And that's going to echo a bunch because I forgot to turn off the notification sound. So unfortunately, you guys will be hearing that over and over and over again for at least 2 times. But thank you, Nina. That's freaking awesome. I love the way that little animation popped up and everyone gets to see it. That's really fucking cool. So thank you, Nina. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that you're willing to mod on Tuesdays. I'm not sure it's going to be Tuesdays, but that's what I'm aiming for because that used to be my release day. I usually release everything on Tuesdays. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, like, I mean, pretty much the worst that happened was like, you know, even if I lose that hard drive, most people already know that I'm already rebounded from it because it's really an opportunity to reinvent myself again, which is something I love doing. Like I'm a black magician, guys. That's pretty much the point of black magic. As
CM Helnikainen pointed out, it's the death card, baby.
It's the death card. That is never bad. It is never bad. Never fear the death card. If you embrace it, that can be one of the most powerful moments in your life. Yeah, I mean, Dan R says it's not hard to recover a hard drive. Likelihood your son's girlfriend, father will recover about some. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I had bought this cheap little hard drive external bay that you can plug in with a USB, and even I was able to get to it. I just couldn't get it to access. But he knows all the shit, and he probably used Spin Drive or something and got right, or Spin Right and got right in it. And the first attempt, there was still a bunch of photos that got recovered. So he's like, I can do better than this. I know I can. And it's been a day or two, so I'm hoping I'll hear something soon because I don't know what's going on. I was supposed to hear something yesterday. I don't know. I'm not going to be pushy because they're doing it for free. It's like a $300 job for free.
I love knowing people that know things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a skill that they don't teach you in high school. It's not always about what you know, it's about the people that you know. Because We live in a world where you can't specialize in everything, despite how we try. You gotta know people that have those fucking niche skills and talents.
It's also they should have like a class in school, and instead of calling it networking, like it's networking for computers, it should be networking for people, because it really is, you know, it really is one of the most important things, and it's so natural in school because you're there already, but you need to know how to do it after school, because quite honestly, as a 40-something, making friends right now is next to impossible.
Yeah, that's why we turned to black magic to fucking summon friends for us. Mm-hmm. Once you get in your 30s, it's fucking impossible, man.
Yeah, once people start getting married off, forget it. It's over. Married and kids, like, it's over. Like, ugh, it sucks.
We have a super chat from AJ. Says, I was watching a previous stream and you mentioned how you liked the movie Split. Can you elaborate, please, on why you like Split and how it relates to your occult and spiritual concepts?
Oh, I'd love to. Actually, that sounds like a really good topic that I would like to talk about. Man, that's like a whole can of worms, and you paid enough for a good answer. So, oof. Aaron, yeah, Aaron's going to be coming on too, so we got to bring him in a minute too. All right, let me hit this question, and let's read that out. Go ahead, Fleshy, do your job.
Yeah, Aaron D says, enjoying the sights in the underworld, guys? Fuck yes, I am.
Yes, we are. So in fact, he loves it so much.
Thank
it's
you,
so
both
cool. You look like a badass. Correct me if I'm wrong. Non-binary Terminator. Yes or no? Did I get it or no?
I'm the more efficient version of the T9000. That's what Schwarzenegger was, right? T9000. No, that's the liquid.
He was a T100.
Okay, what T100? Thank you. I'm the more sleek, streamlined. I'm like the T200, where they didn't have to be so bulky. I'm the Twinkinator.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
I'm the guy that they would send back in time to fucking blend in like the ISCO in the 70s.
Dude, you have a total retro wave vibe going right now. That like.
Oh, good. That's what I was going for.
And you know I love retro wave. You got like a total retro wave going on. In fact, if someone could take that, I have to get all my art programs working again. But somebody could take that and retro wave that, digitize it so it looks like a retro wave. Like, it's perfect. I love it. In fact, I need more blue on my end. I need to turn this more blue. All right, so, all right, let's get to the question. Let's get to that big question. So, the steaming question was, you said you liked the movie Split. Can you elaborate, please, on why you like Split and how it relates to your cult spiritual practice? Okay. First and foremost, as a young man, when I began my journey into occult spirituality, which at the time I wouldn't have called it that, I just said I got possessed through hypnosis, right? And one of the prevailing questions was, is this really another entity, or is DH just experiencing multiple personality disorder at the time, as we called it? We didn't call it,
DID.
Yeah, we didn't call it DID. I still barely call it that. I think DID is such a much cooler word for it. And also calling them altars, like that's such a it's like, it makes it cool to call it an altar. Like, oh, I want an altar. That sounds awesome. So the entities that I would become possessed by, we'll say, that I would channel and be possessed by, would manifest quite similarly at times to DID. So I really did have a kind of almost DID situation on my hands, because I would be going through life and I would flip into that person. Now, at the time, the story was, when I say story, because it evolves, of course, but at the time when it began, what I was told and what I would say as these entities, specifically one though, was the one I used the most, was that this entity was in fact a part of me, because it was another soul, if you will, that had merged with mine as a way to kind of hide from something, okay? And the idea was, over time, me and this entity would become integrated and be indistinguishable from one another. We'd be the same being over time. So whatever was going on would sort of be undone, if you will. The two would become one. My personality would take on both, and I would pretty much everything that it said would happen came to pass or is nearly complete at this point. It's like, looking back, I go, it's really interesting because at one point I stopped believing in it, and I'm like, yeah, of course it would say that. Of course, blah, 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 blah. And as I look at myself right now, who I am right now, and all the things that I think of right now, and all the people that I associate with, and all the skills that I have, and all of these things as they are right now, when I look at myself right now, I go, I am becoming exactly what this spirit said I would be once we began to integrate fully in the final finishing touches, you know, like I'm 95%, you know, that kind of thing. Magic would return to the world. Little did I realize that meant I would return to the world of magic. I would become more like my idealized self. I just lost 90 pounds, 85 pounds. I'm getting there. So many things I'm awakening to. And I no longer hear that spirit at all. Like, I can't associate with it anymore. So in the movie Split, and equally...
The spirit was stored in the fat cells.
Yeah, basically. And fat cells are mostly water, which is what memory is. Anyway, you also have Fight Club, which was equally as big to me in my 20s for the same reason, because I would watch that and go, shit, I'm like Tyler Durden. Right? I'm like Tyler Durden in... what's his name?
He's never named.
He's never named, yeah.
Just Jack.
Yeah, just Jack.
The narrator.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of the actor's name, because I know he doesn't have a name as a character. At least not that I know of.
It's Squish Face.
Ed Norton, right? Ed Norton.
Yeah, some call him that.
I think it's Edward Norton. So
friends call him Squish Face.
Squish Face. So I began to realize that other entity was sort of like a Tyler Durden. Or going back to Split, Split is like the integration of shadows. And the idea in the movie Split was that the idealized version of, what's his name, you know, Henry Randall Cum or whatever, is the Beast. And the Beast is the combination of all of... It's the Ubermensch, if you will, that is possible when all of your broken shadows are reintegrated. Because every one of those characters that he was kind of like a shadow, in a way. But they were all split apart. You know, his personality was split into multiple personalities. Instead of one, it was multiple. And then the Beast, of course, was all of them, was the amalgamation of all of them. So as I ascend in my practices and recover and integrate this other thing, in a way, I'm more like the Beast all the time. And that, to me, is also meaningful. I am also moved deeply in Split by the part where... and also in Mr. Glass, too. But in Split, where he talks about, you know... I forget the wording. He says it so poetically, though, about, you know, the broken are the ones who are truly saved, or whatever, something like that. You know, rejoice, for you are broken, and the broken are purified. I'm like, fuck, I know that. I know that kind of feeling, that voice, that, you know, people who haven't suffered can't be an Ubermensch, right? You can't be a superior ascended being unless you belong on the island of misfit toys. The only way that you can become the Grand Master is to first be utterly destroyed on some level.
It's like those, I think it's in China, where historically they would recast the bowls that broke with gold in between to become more beautiful.
Yes, very good example. Very good. I forget what that's called. I forget what that's called now. I know what it is, too. Oh, shit. Doesn't really matter, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I love
I'm going to jump in real quick. We got a super chat from the great and powerful Eddie Romanov. Said, "For fleshies, phased, pulse, bad dragon in the 40-watt range."
Say it. No, you didn't do it right. You didn't do it right. You need to say it like the Terminator.
Oh, I'm going to butcher that right now.
Remember that scene? Because he's quoting the scene from the Terminator where he goes to the gun store and asks for a phased plasma rifle.
Fuck, I don't remember that shit.
Oh, it's in the original Terminator.
Phased, pulse, bad dragon in the 40-watt range.
Good enough. Good enough. We'll take it. What the hell, guys? I'm watching the viewers fucking fold out. Bring him back. Everybody tell your friends. Come on, tell your friends. We're doing a live stream. We're talking about spiritual stuff. We got our guest pretty much ready to go. If your text before was right, is that correct?
Yes. Let me. I was actually trying to touch base with you and see when we wanted to bring him on, so I will let him know right now. And also
let
the quote
him know that we'll bring him on in a second. We'll get to the main topic in just a second, then, because
cool.
I would like to do that.
And that quote that you were looking for, according to Google, is, "You are different from the rest. Your heart is pure. Rejoice. The broken are more evolved. Rejoice."
That is true. It is true. The broken are more evolved, period.
You fucking have to evolve, otherwise you die after being broken.
Exactly.
If you just end at the tower, then it's fucking... you just fall.
Yeah. Until you become the world, and then some systems believe you start back at the Fool again once you've become the world for a while. Remember that the first, the major cards of the Arcana. The major Arcana is actually, I agree with Damien Eccles. It's the symbolic representation of the ascension of someone from initiation to mastery. That's pretty much what it is. Dice Controller 187 on an undercover flop. What's up, brother? I'm borrowing a little bit of JD there.
Since JD, we all have to sing Dice Controller's name. Like that is so infectious, the way that he does it.
Yeah, it is. So okay,
yeah, I really like that interpretation of the Fool's Journey.
I do too. I do too. So I forgot something here, guys. On the link, let's see if I can fix it real quick. Give me a second, guys. While you're getting the link, getting the guest ready, let me fix this. So I was talking about a minute ago. Hopefully I can fix this right now.
I see you fucking with shit behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's not going to look as pretty, but it'll work. For now, it'll work. It's good enough. I can fix it up later. So, for those of you guys who are hearing me talking about having to create a mail order bride list, my little mail subscription service thing. So if you guys don't want to lose access, I shouldn't say lose access. If you guys want to make sure that you're getting alerts for all of the stuff that I do, go to that link, the Linktree link. It's also in the description of the video. I mean, maybe Fleshy will post it. I can post it.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Go to that link. I click that. Go to the very first link. I'm going to put it up now. Go to the very first link. It'll say subscribe to the mailing list. If you click on that, you will get updates pretty regularly when I post something or go live. I'm planning on doing probably, I'm hoping to do at least one a week because I want you guys to know when I'm going live, because I get told all the time, I had no idea we're going live tonight, even though I do it like every night, every Thursday. People forget. They don't know, and YouTube doesn't tell them, and Facebook doesn't tell them. So that's what that's for. So go right ahead and click that bad boy right there, the very first link, and follow. It's safe. It's all through MailChimp. I'm not sending you off to, baddragon.com or something, although some of you may like that. Atropa
That's
said,
my link tree.
Atropa did do it. I did catch you do it. Thank you so much, Atropa. I appreciate that. So yeah, it will help you guys, and I'm gonna be boosting this every week for a long time, because it really I want that to get to 1,000 people on it before. That's probably too big an ask. I'll say 300 people before Christmas. Can we do 300 people before? I want to see 300 people on that list before Christmas. If that happens, I'll be very happy. Also, I just realized I'm just a few subs away from 5,000, aren't I? Oh, I think Fleshy's, I think we lost something here. Fleshy, where'd you go? Fleshy. We lost Fleshy. He's gone. Flesh. He froze. Flashy! Oh my goodness. Oh. We lost him. Now we just got the chat. That's not good. Well, anyway, in the meantime, guys, I guess it's just me. Hopefully he'll get back to me. What should we talk about? Yeah, Fleshy broke it. He said, man, can we get around all these damn technical difficulties for a change? This is ridiculous. He'll be back like, I'm so sorry in a minute. I blame Aaron. That's who's really doing it. It's still tweeting on my end. Flesh is not online. I wonder what happened. Bear with me a moment, guys. I got to see what's going on here. Oh, nothing like dead air on a live stream. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay, well, I will just run the show without him for a few minutes till we figure it out. Yeah, maybe he lost his Wi-Fi. No, Nina, it's not that. I think it's something on Fleshy's end. He must have... I wonder if he got like an earthquake and just vanished. Hopefully he's okay. So, instead, I guess what I'll do while I'm waiting for him to get sorted... He probably... Maybe his computer crashed. That's possible. Aaron, you know hopefully who I am on Skype. If you can try looking me up there. And you can text me and I will... hopefully get you. Oop, Fleshy might have just came back. Let's see. It was the aliens. Timothy says it was the aliens. I think he's right. Oh, shit. Helnikinian maybe just got it. He said Fleshy was Christian and the rapture just happened. That might be. That really might be what happened. That really might be it. John Stone says he didn't mind the shadows. Well, you guys just talk to me. Ask me your questions. What do you think while we're waiting for the people to show back up through Skype? What do you guys got on your mind? How you guys? Oh, there's Aaron. Yep. All right, we got Aaron. Gonna call Aaron. Let's bring him in. Hopefully this works. Oh, that's annoying. Aaron, what's up?
Is my camera showing up?
No, but I hear you. So that's at least... yes, now it's showing up. You're good now.
Woohoo!
All right, now I just got to get you sorted on my screen here. All right, let's fix this thing now. Sorry, guys, this is what happens. Fleshy broke it. He's going to be all so apologetic when he comes back. The heck is going on with this thing? Sorry, guys. I'm just, I might have to put this into a holding pattern until I figure this out too. Technical difficulties.
It's funny. I can see what you're doing. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but it sure looks technical.
Yeah, it's annoying. Yep, I did it again. What the fuck? Alright, that might do it. Hopefully this will work, because this thing was working really good when I set it all up, and then it turned into a piece of shit. It is not working for this now either. What the hell? We might not just be able to have video tonight because Fleshy broke it. Damn it, Fleshy. If he ever gets back. Yeah, I might not be able to get your video there, buddy. I don't know what's going on. It does not want to capture your video at all.
So I can just be the mystical voice from beyond tonight?
Yeah, you could be that guy tonight, I guess. Damn it. Really just turns out to be Skype's fault. Because Skype fucks everything up with OBS. I don't know why. You know what? I'll be right back, Aaron. I'm going to close Skype. Let's see if that fixes it.
Roger that.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, maybe. Let's do this. Beep. Apologize, everybody. Are you still there, Aaron?
Yep.
Oh. So I can't even hang up with you.
You're stuck with me. Deal with it.
All right, I'm gonna end it and start it over. Like I can't even close Skype. Like how cute is that? Skype isn't working now. Interesting, guys. Some kind of bug happened in the world somewhere. Okay. That's working. This is why you don't really want everything to die on your computer, because then you'll have to do this all the fucking time. Yeah, Fleshy's not coming back. I don't have a good feeling about this. Alright, we will give this a shot. If it doesn't work, then we'll just do audio. So, you still see me alright?
Yeah, I think I can see you.
Okay, I see you too. There we go. Yep. Rebooting that thing must be what needed to happen. At least I'm getting it to recognize that you exist now.
Alright.
We're off to a better start anyway. Yeah, no, it doesn't want to find you. Alright, whatever. We will do it without video tonight. I'll figure it out another night. So anyway, I don't recommend NDI. That thing never freaking works anymore. I'll have to figure that out. But I can hear you, man, so hopefully we'll get Fleshy back as well. So what's up? What have you been up to?
That is a good question. Been trying to fit spirituality in amongst burnout and the lovely virus crap that's flaring again and all that other lovely crap.
Oh, yeah. So we wanted to talk about mainly chthonic underworld type of stuff. We were going to be talking about stuff that had to do with... let me fix that. There we go. Okay, good enough. We were going to be talking about... a lot of the underworld stuff, you know. That's
yes.
So let's let's begin. What did you want to talk about with that subject?
That's what I was gonna ask you. I've got more like of the, scholastic, academic and stuff, or I've got more of the, gnosis crap I figured out the hard way kind of stuff, and I was wondering where you wanted to start.
Well, my brain is currently on tech support issues, so when my brain refocuses on the things that are spiritual, I'll let you know. But I will say that for a while, I was really deep into researching and learning about the mysteries of Eleusis, in particular.
The Eleusinian mysteries.
Yeah, specifically those were the ones that were of interest to me for a while. Because that seems to be probably at least the most profound that are, maybe not the most profound objectively, but the most profound that are talked about by the wider community. If, throughout history, it seemed like that was the most popular of the mystery schools. I don't know if that's correct or not. But yeah, tell me what you know or what you think about it.
So you mentioned the Eleusinian mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
There's another mystery school based in Dionysus. Basically, these are occulted versions of previous chthonic cults.
Okay.
So basically what it was is in ancient Greece, you had two basic belief schools, the Olympian and the Chthonic. The Olympian was that the gods were these beings up on the clouds. They're separate. They're divine. They aren't like you or me, never will be. We will never know what it is to be them, all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Typically, their form of worship was they had like this stone in the center of most of their temples, known as the Omphalos stone.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to offer to the gods, you threw the offering on this rock because it was like a microcosm of Mount Olympus.
Okay.
The Chthonic was different. It focused entirely on beings of and around and below the world of you and I.
Okay.
You and I are no more or less divine than these chthonic beings that we would want to work with. We're just present right here, right now, and they are not.
Okay.
At least not in the way you or I are.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when they offered things, they dug a deep pit and threw stuff in it. It wasn't like, oh, well, we're throwing stuff on a fake Mount Olympus. No, it's like, oh, you assholes are underground. Here's your crap.
I like that. Here's your crap. Yeah. And not just underground, because I mean, I say chthonic, you say chthonic, I think, right? To me, I mean, my reading of it is not just underworld. It's anything to do with the earth itself. Like, so Olympus and Zeus obviously is everything in the skies and in the heavens and all that stuff. I mean, more than that, but that's the and the chthonic stuff, the chthonic stuff is all in the earth. So that doesn't just mean. It may not mean on the surface so much, although it does include that. It means anything of the earth, right? Like so
basically anything on our level or possibly below.
Okay. Material or below.
Yeah. To them, it was, and you see this somewhat in the mystery schools you mentioned, is that they believe kind of in like the circle of life from like the Lion King,
Mm-hmm.
You die, that feeds the earth, which feeds the plants and animals, which some person eats, and then they die. To their line of thinking is if any part of that cycle is divine, it doesn't matter what it is, then all parts must be divine. It's sort of like the law of conservation of energy. It's sort of the law of conservation of divinity.
Okay.
It cannot be created or destroyed. It only assumes a new form.
Yeah. And I think that's also more of a accepted surface reading of it. I think that you can go so deep into the hidden meanings with all that I think, I mean, my new book has a lot to do with that, but my study of the spirits and my understanding of them definitely talks a lot about that overall, like over the years, that. But that's why I think it's one of the most important ones. I'm not saying it's the only one. You can get like you said, there's many different mystery schools, and they all have different things to teach us, and they all teach us about our divinity. Ultimately, I think I think that's what they all are teaching us, and we have to remember that the Greek culture and their mysticism, their whatever you want to call it, their religion is of the same cloth, as pretty much all of the antiquated religions that stem from that Proto-Indo-European origin, they all sort of, especially Greece and India, and Egypt. Like, people don't realize the connection between Greece and India. There was like a period of time where it's clear that they influenced each other's mysticism and spirituality and philosophy a lot, because you even have the same words being present in Sanskrit and in Greek and all these, borrowed words and stuff for concepts. And it's a little difficult to really say for sure which one influenced the other more. Sometimes I feel like India influenced Greece a little bit more, but it could be the other way around. And Greece and Egypt too. Like that's of course.
Yeah, it helps. Like you mentioned the Indo-Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
You are right. They both came from like a core culture in the Indus Valley, which is like most northwest India of today. They were as advanced as Rome was during the time of Jesus, except I think about 4,000 or 5,000 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a disaster befell. Academics still don't know what that was. One group went to the southeast, and that was the precursor to Hinduism.
Okay.
The other went northwest, and either through war, intermarriage, or basically sheer migratory numbers, intermingled with the native faiths of Europe, and that's where we get a lot of these pagan faiths you call today.
Okay.
Where you especially see that is in a lot of them, you always see a older generation of deities and a younger generation of deities. The older ones tend to focus on natural forces, chaos, things that today you or I, well, maybe not you or I, but most people would view as like evil or malevolent.
Mm-hmm.
But that's our understanding from a very modified version of the Western take. Back then, these beings weren't more or less evil to their practitioners than they were to each other.
Right. 1 second. Little back end stuff. Okay, good. Trying to add Fleshy again. We'll see. He can probably join at any point, but I wanted to make sure it was on the offer table. Okay. So yeah, and it wasn't just evil, but I mean, it's like, so we see in Mesopotamia, we see this marching forward of the progress of spirituality also matches the progress of the, technological progress of the society. So you have this sort of triumphant, God, taming the bulls, taming the lions, all this kind of stuff. That's like a big part of their imagery and iconography. And as that transitions, we see similar stuff in other cultures. So you have like in the Norse pantheon, you have this idea that there was an older set of gods that was maybe one culture, and then the new culture kind of took over, but they honored them for whatever reason. They kept their gods in it. And we see this, that's one interpretation of it, but we see this over and over again when we have, the Olympians, of course, they conquer the Titans, and the Titans conquered the Primordials. Well, more or less, that's a little different. But the Titans and the Primordials happen, then the Titans come out of them, and then the Titans are beaten by the Olympians. The Olympians take over, and all of that happens. We see this repeated in so many different cultures around history, and so that's really important. So this isn't just meant to be a history lesson, though, because I think that there's a lot to be said here for your practices. If you are using these things correctly, there's a lot to be said for your practices, because at some point you are able to say, you know what, all of these things stem from a source of mystical spirituality, which is universal, kind of. There's different ways of looking at it, but it's always like a universal mystical thing, and we can access that along that dimension. So if you're not into Hellenistic or whatever, mythology, you can go to almost any culture and get kind of the same, different, but the same big picture information, I guess, is what I'm getting at. The same foundation.
Actually, yeah, that's why this is kind of leading into the more my workings thing, but you want to get the most out of any mythology, any story of any deity in a Teutonic sense. Substitute the words underworld, or in some cases otherworld, for subconscious.
Yep. Okay.
Because in that case, you start to see how these entities, these spirits, whether you're dual or non-dual, how they relate to aspects of yourself. And once you start relating to aspects of yourself, they really become things you can work with on a personal level. They're not these distant beings mentioned in books that you have to placate a certain special way that these people 4,000 years ago did. No. These are beings that you can look at yourself, look how you process the things about you, and then use that as a tool to work with these entities in a way that makes change you want to see.
I want to thank Jay Sauber for the $4.99 super chat that he often gives. Thank you so much for that tonight, brother. I appreciate it. It's going to go a long way because apparently I still got bugs to work out of the system, but we'll figure it out. I don't want to use Melon anymore because Melon really messed with my video. So I don't know why it wouldn't give good video. It would just blur me out, and it really has nothing to do with my camera. It's everything to do with the software on their end. And there's no, unlike OBS or Streamlabs where I have a lot of options for adjusting things, I was stuck with what it gave me. So, yeah. So anyway, getting back to it. So here's the thing. The ancient peoples coded wisdom in mythology. That much is certain. We can say all this other stuff about the culture meant this, the culture meant that, but it's to me irrefutable that all of this is coded spirituality, coded high level understandings of both human psyche, and once upon a time the word psyche meant soul, human psyche, and everything to do with the bigger, broader understanding of reality itself. A lot of things have been hidden and forgotten. So most things are still known by others, right? There's definitely people out there that know the hidden truth behind all of this. There's no question in my mind. You know, the secret societies of the world, they know, right? On some level they know because they use that information to their advantage. But throughout time, humanity has, like, there's the peasant religion and then there's the master's religion. The peasant religion is always, you know, a manipulative control system that just sort of, you know, peters out a little bit of it at a time. But the thing is, the collective conscious knows these things. And we've reached a point in our history where now we have access to the cultural memory of all of these different, you know, cultures, basically, these different histories and timelines. And they all point to very similar truths that when taken in the aggregate, you have like the Joseph Campbell school of, you know, whatchamacallit, combined mythology or whatever they called it, which tells us certain truths that everyone seemed to know that they also kind of kept suppressed a little bit. You know, like when we look at Christianity and we look at the Bible that's used by Christians anyway, it's filled with things to do with astrology and pagan beliefs and things that Christians don't even want to hear about. They don't even want to know. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's stuff hidden in it, and people have forgotten it because it's not been taught to them. So, when we talk about the mystery schools, the reason why the Eleusinian mysteries really kind of meant a lot to me, because it's kind of like, you know, it was very clear that that was a practice that comes from a time before Demeter, when it was, instead of Demeter and Persephone and Hades, you know, they're actually talking about, the Sumerian stuff, the Mesopotamian stuff that became the Greek stuff, or was syncretized with the Greek stuff at the very least. Sometimes I guess it's wrong to say the Sumerian stuff became the Greek, because realistically it traveled probably more from Turkey through Greece to Mesopotamia, maybe, I don't know, but they're all sort of telling the same story. And Egypt too. And Egypt had a slightly different version of all of this, of course. You know, it's a little harder to syncretize the Egyptian myths with the Greco-Roman ones, but you can.
About to say, the Greeks had no problem, the Romans had no problem with that.
No, and the Greeks didn't either. I mean, there was a time when they were basically butt buddies, like in the extreme, like they were like one big, you know, super culture for a little while. Absolutely correct. So, but I'm saying from our view, like when you look at Amun or Amun, before he became Amun-Ra, and Zeus, they syncretize them, but to us, there's not as much of a similarity because to the Egyptians, that was Sol, like that was the sun.
Well, that's probably because our Western view is heavily influenced by that school I talked about, the Olympic way of viewing things.
Yep.
Because that's the one that supported kings being kings, which means kings pushed it on their people. That's why the chthonic cults had to become occluded mystery schools.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah, I like that. Because that is what happens. Like I said, there's the peasant religion, then there's the king's religion, and then there's all these things that manipulate. But what I liked about the Eleusinian Mysteries is because it's very clear that it's sort of the Greek version of stuff that was done in Egypt and Samaria, especially with the Egyptian use of the Blue Lotus and whatever psychedelics went into that. It's almost absolutely... It's very clear to me that it had to be a psychedelic thing. It wasn't just some people just doing, stage plays. People don't have the kind of revelations that they had so easily as they had with the mysteries that they had without. To get the same gnosis that you got probably from the Eleusinian Mysteries without chemical assistance, we'll say, of some kind, like you were talking about with the Dionysian Mysteries, without some kind of chemical assistance, you're talking perhaps decades of training, not just spiritual training, like being told what the truth is or led to it with lessons and wisdom, but heavy transcendental practices like tantra and yoga and meditation.
Yeah, like the Indian gurus who, there's decades of guided experience to lead them to that point.
Yes, it takes a lot of effort. So speaking from experience, I've never done psychedelics at all. I mean, you can count maybe a little bit of weed now and then as a hallucinogen, but it's not the same thing as having full ego death from a fucking hit from DMT, right? So, but I experienced my own subtle version of ego death sort of spontaneously while contemplating, which is, if you look at the really deep traditional ways of realizing samadhi and oneness with the universe and all this stuff, there was 3 paths. You had the meditative path, the contemplative path, and I forget what the last one was, but you had the three main paths, and contemplation is supposedly one of them. If you think about it enough, if you contemplate divinity enough, you encounter it. So no, I didn't use any substances. I just suddenly had a spontaneous awareness, awakening, very, not as vivid perhaps, obviously. I don't think it was as vivid as somebody else would have. It's not like I suddenly,
like you had the realization ever so briefly that you're a video game character, and you ask, what is this character do? Not what I would do. What is this character supposed to do right fucking now?
That's at the very least the threshold. Like when you start thinking that way, you are really close to having. So ego death. So ego is the part of you. It's not even the part of you. Let me get the definitions right. Ego is not a thing. It's an action. So ego is the act, the behavior of associating. So the part of you that says I, even if you say it in the grandest way possible, when you say I am everything, you are still inadvertently denying something, right? Because you're basically assuming that you could be any other way, because it can't be. So anytime you say I, that is an act of ego. So when you say I am this, so let's say if I say I am D.H. Thorne, what I'm really saying is a denial. I'm denying all the things that I don't think D.H. Thorne is, right? So that is the video game character, the I am D.H. Thorne. That's the video game character. Once you start to realize that that's a character, then it's an attainable step to go from that to not associating at all, to have a moment of non-association. And the irony is, we go through this all the time. That's like when I say, when someone can do empty mind meditation and they don't realize that they do it more often than they realize. If you've ever been absorbed in an activity, you've actually experienced the threshold of samadhi, because you're so absorbed in the act, your identity, your ego shuts the fuck off, right? You're not egoistic at that moment. You are fully absorbed in the moment.
There's there's a term, I forget what it's called. I think it's like white line syndrome or whatnot. It's the idea that we do this all the time for anybody who drives a car, because have you ever driven roads for like a half hour? You pull the car over, you get out, and you try to think back on that period of time you were driving, and it just comes up as a blank. You're basically on complete autopilot.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree with you. And it's a kind of autopilot. It's kind of like the depths of sleep. You know, we all dream all night long, but we only remember a few minutes of it most of the time. Sometimes you remember more, but most of the time, most people only remember a few minutes of it. They're usually the last few minutes. You know, we don't remember the deepest part of sleep. In fact, I'm pretty convinced that when you're at your deepest part of sleep, the absolute deepest, your consciousness stops focusing on the brain and returns to the ultimate chaos that it is. You know, that's what's going on. It's basically achieving nirvana for a little while. It's rejoining itself. And then at some point it says, you know what, let's go back to this brain again, and reawakens as you, usually in a dream way, you know.
Yeah, it's like a lens. It's not focusing somewhere else. It's just zooming out. Exactly
like a lens. You're going to love my new book, by the way. I think you're going to completely get my new book when I put it out. It's all about, I think you'll get it. I don't want to give too much away. I want to release it before I start talking about it too much. But I think you're going to really like it, because a lot of what we're talking about has a lot to do with it. Because all of these mystery schools, especially the ones that do a death and rebirth or disobjectification ontology, where you realize that the subjective and the objective are one and the same. So the pattern of revelation goes like this. I'm a little old me inside a little old body looking out at a great big giant universe, and I'm isolated, alone, and my consciousness is a little point inside this experience. That's all it is. That's the materialist, the baseline that everyone pretty much starts with, unless you're trained from birth the right way, which I think is possible. I don't know who's ever done it, but I bet you it's possible. That's where we all start. The next step through meditation practices is to realize that everything that you think of as external is really an activity that happens inside consciousness. That's the second step. That's a big step. Most people don't get there. In fact, very few ever do. But it's a very easily attainable step if you've got a good teacher, or you are smart, or you are meant to awaken to it. You will realize that everything that I think of as external is actually something happening inside my awareness. Okay? So that's step 2. It's an inversion of the inside out. You're inverting your position. So it's kind of like an expansion. You become bigger than the universe because everything you experience as the universe is happening inside that awareness. So that's step 2. Step 3 is perhaps the hardest of all, because you completely lose inside out or right side out. To say that the universe happens inside you is still a kind of separation. When you have complete and total samadhi, there is the complete external internal is completely collapsed and destroyed. There is no conception of one or the other. That's a difficult state to explain, understand, or repeat. So, but getting back to the Eleusinian mysteries in particular, because that's the one I know the best about, and then we'll talk definitely about the Dionysian one, because it sounds like they aim for a very similar end result. So my theory that I believe, that I agree with, not my theory, the theory I agree with, is that the Eleusinian mysteries, of course, involved education, so contemplation, education about the story. Let's back up, because I'm still a little distracted by the tech support issues. Let's back up a little bit. So the Eleusinian mysteries are the mystery school of Greece that dealt with the story of Persephone, Hades, and Demeter, and I forget the name of the son, but the son of the queen of Eleusis. And the story was basically this. Hades, there's different interpretations. Some make Hades out to be a bastard who's like raping somebody. The other ones make it more different, make it different. We also have to remember, when we're looking at historical myth and history and the way people lived, we shouldn't apply our modern day ethics and morality to it and judge the same way we would if it was happening today. Back in certain periods in history, to abduct a woman and take her as your wife wasn't really that frowned upon like it would be today, because you're sort of taking them to nurture and care. It's not. It's got a different context, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a different context for the period. When you have a civilization where people are coming at each other with swords all the time and trying to steal each other's fields, things are more brutal, just period. Morality looks different to that culture, completely different. In that culture, it's right to chop somebody's hand off just for stealing something, because you really have to crack down on that in that culture. Just saying. I don't know if you'd agree, Aaron, but that's the first thing we got to do is we've got to
I wish we'd bring that back.
I mean, as long as you got good proof, while we're getting everybody's genes on file, so the Eleusinian mysteries deal with Hades, who there's a lot of different versions of the myth. The one I like best is the one where Hades falls in love with Persephone. She's a young maiden. Her mother is an overbearing but loving pain in the ass, Demeter, or Demeter, depending upon how you like to pronounce it. And Demeter, of course, is...
In fact, there's a theory that an earlier version of all this, Demeter and Persephone were one and the same. They were just got separated for ease of the myth.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I think I heard that too. So Hades abducts Persephone, right? There's different versions of the story. Some are deeper in the stuff. Just accept Hades abducts Persephone. Now, Hades, of course, is the king of the underworld, right? So he is. So when the Olympians killed, really, they just dismantled the Titans. They chopped them up, right? When the Olympians chopped up the Titans and banished them to Tartarus, so they could never resurrect because they're separated across the cosmos, basically. The gods divided up the domains of the world, right? And so Zeus took the diurnal day, sky, and storms. Well, not storms, but diurnal day and sky, right? Poseidon actually got ripped off. He got like the shittiest of the deal, actually, because he only got the Mediterranean Sea. A lot of people think he's the god of the sea. He's actually not. That's Uranus, right? Or Oceanus, whatever. Oceanus.
Oceanus.
Oceanus. Thank you. And so Poseidon actually gets like the shitty end of the stick because he just gets the Mediterranean Sea. He doesn't even get the whole of the ocean. So for people who are like going to the Atlantic and like praying to Poseidon, that's okay, but that's not what was meant.
See, one interpretation is he's like the coastal sea, the part where everybody gets like the fish and all the stuff they need from.
I like that because especially since that's where everybody would encounter all of, like they would need to. Yeah, exactly. I like that. So. At the they definitely knew stuff was beyond the Mediterranean at the time. They didn't know a lot, but they knew there was stuff out there. So he was only the god of the Mediterranean according to the myths anyway. So he got like the shitty end of the stick. And Hades, of course, I think some people like to interpret it like in that video game Hades, like Hades got like a shitty deal too. I don't think of it that way. I think Hades actually got a really good deal. He basically got to be lord of all the underworld. And that's very important because that has a lot to do with the future of everybody. And in some ways, the idea that people would be worshiping Zeus more than Hades is a little silly because you'd think you'd want to make good with the guy who's going to be in charge of your afterlife more than the Olympians. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Or,
although I'll clarify a few things. He's not the one that kills you or harvests your soul. There's like a couple different families of spirit, depending on how you die, that'll do that.
Right? You have Thanatos. You have
Thanatos is the one of gentle death. So like illness, old age. The Furies, or Inyas, I think if I'm saying it right, are violent death.
Right.
There's a whole separate family for if you die at sea. Yeah, he's not that. He's not even the one that transits you to the underworld. That's Charon, which, depending on the academics you look at, he was previously a god of the underworld too. Basically, Hades is the upper management of the underworld.
Yep.
And something important to realize too is that according to the myths, everybody thinks of the underworld as like at worst hell, but it's really not.
Oh no, because you had Elysium down there. I mean, Elysium down there. You had Elysium.
The Isles of the Blessed, but you had to be like the best of the best person to get there. And we're not talking like moralistic best. We're talking like you had to be a hero. You had to do things that no one ever heard of before to get there.
Right. You had to be one of the champions, one of the heroes. You basically had to be a big guy, a big dude. Yeah.
the vast majority of us would technically fall into the Elysian Fields. It's sort of like a twilight area. It's not great by any imagination, but it's not bad. You don't suffer, but you aren't rewarded with eternal paradise either.
Okay. Other people are trying to call in. Wyatt's texting me. No, Wyatt, not yet. I don't have my back end tonight, so I'm probably just going to be handling Aaron right now. So we'll try to take you next week if you want to call in. So sorry about that. It's a little tougher to do all this when it's just me. So
sorry for Hagen. Just saying that right now.
That's okay. He'll understand. I lost my fleshy tonight. I need him. So
that sounded so horrible out of context.
That's how it's supposed to sound. We said it for that reason. We need Helen Kainen to show up and take that for us. All right, so I love what you're saying because, I mean, as you know, for a while I was like, I don't want to deal with the Hellenistic stuff. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong, mainly because of the Olympian stuff. I think, like, spiritually I know that's like another, not dead-end thing because it's still useful. There's still a lot of good shit there. It's just, once I started really getting familiar with the chthonic stuff, Hades, the Eleusinian mysteries, I'm like, wait a minute, this to me is where the real deep end of the shit is. I really like this.
If I may refer to something from the past, that's probably why you didn't connect with Odin that well, because he's basically the chief of the Norse version of the Olympians.
Okay, yep. I mean, and especially after the Christianization of the Norse stuff, because before that, Odin wasn't the leader of anything. It was just one of the gods, maybe the father, but it wasn't. It was always, I'm not going to say it right, so for those of you who can speak it well, Thor was always more the Jupiter, the Zeus of that pantheon. In fact, the domains are basically the same. Zeus and Thor, with the exception of certain behaviors, are pretty much easily syncretized way more than Odin is. Odin, the only reason you'd syncretize them is because he's like the chief in the current version.
Even that's from a mistranslation. He's known as Valfather, which means father of the dead, not father of. Wow,
that's a nice piece of history. Thank you. That's a good hit. So I don't know. Did Arith Hager tell you that? Because I like his channel. I don't know if you got it from him. I don't know if you watch him. He's got a good channel for this stuff. He might have said something like that's a really.
I don't know. I've seen it somewhere. I watch weird videos until 3 a.m.
Yeah, so do I, bro. That's how we met, I guess. But yeah,
actually, yeah, but
so that's really good to know. That's a good point because Woden is Mercury basically. And that's actually meaningful because in a way they have a similar behavior because Mercury is also psychopomp. Just he takes you to Chiron basically to Charon. Chiron. Shut up, brain. The boatman.
Yeah. Chiron. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of those names, it's like Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Go with what sounds right to
you. Say it right for yourself. Exactly. So why is my Steam, is Fleshy trying to get a hold of me on Steam now? Yeah, no, I don't know. Go away, whoever you are. Suddenly everybody wants, what is going on with tech support tonight? My goodness. All right. But yeah, so he was, another psychopomp. Psychopomp means basically a Valkyrie is a type of psychopomp, right? It's something that takes you to the afterlife. It's what
transits your soul from what we view as the here and now to the hereafter.
Right. So, yeah. So Woden was very much because his Valkyries would come and take you, but correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't really the one who decided where you went either. He was just the one who was in charge of, the warrior's paradise, not even the only paradise. There's actually
all right. So he's in charge of specifically if you die in battle, and he only got half. The other half went to Freya. Now, Odin is in charge of Valhalla. The best way I can describe it is he would probably be very synchronized with Ares because the people who go to Valhalla, Odin's Hall, are all about I'm gonna feast. And I'm going to kill shit when the sun comes up. And that's it. That's your afterlife until he decides he needs you.
Which is interesting because everything Odin's known for has nothing to do with the people who go to him. Well, not nothing, but he's really all about wisdom and mysteries and magic and all of that. So, he's like more of a Mercury type character for sure in almost every important way.
All right, so The basically way I like to describe it is he's the crazy ass old grandpa who, when he has to fight, he will. He knows how, and he doesn't mind having people fight for him.
No, I like that. Yeah, which is why if you recall, working with the Norse pantheon, Odin's the only one I really wanted to work with. All the others were kind of like eh. And not only that, I had a bad experience, not a horrible one, but I had a bad experience with that community because even though, I mean, I guess I fit the profile physically to be, a lot of Asatru, like the bad guys, not the bad guys, but you know what I'm talking about. They would probably be okay with me.
Asatru is like heathen hippies, to be perfectly honest.
Well, whatever it is, like I ended up running into all these people acting like it's a closed system, and I had all these people like, you have to join my this and that if you want to talk about it because it's, I am the only real vulva in the room and blah blah. It's like, all right, okay. It became a bunch of gatekeeping crap, and I hate that shit. To me, that is one of the reasons I like Left Hand Path, Demonolatry, and all that stuff is because it's not like that so much. It's people kind of run from that on our side.
What I find so funny about that is they're so hard ass about all this stuff. But I'm sure I've told you this before, but the Norse specifically were like this, so were the Celts, so were probably all of them. There was no one dogmatic way of viewing any deity.
Right.
It's sort of like the deities were like, if I were to say to you, think of Batman, you will think of a specific instance, right?
Because there's a lot of different Batman storylines.
Yes, yes. Are you thinking of the Adam West Batman? Are you thinking of the animated series Batman? Are you thinking of the Dark Knight Batman? All these different versions, all these different flavors, some of which even with separate stories all their own, but they each have like a certain elements that are so common that if you say Batman, anybody who knows that the DC mythology knows what you're talking about automatically.
Exactly, but there's also something there that's important, and that is the nugget of the egregore that is the same in all of those iterations. So,
for Batman, that's his parents died. He dresses as a bat, and he uses gadgets to beat the shit out of people.
Right, and sometimes he doesn't kill people, but most of the time he doesn't. But sometimes he does if it's the Batman versus Superman Batman. And it's really fascinating because that you've probably heard my rants about how. We're all egregores, right? We're egregores with a human idol right now because our bodies are here and we're focused on this. The story of, so think of the ship of Theseus, which is a really great analogy for the human.
Oh, entity. I love that one.
So the ship of Theseus, for those who don't know, Theseus was the first king of Athens. He was the one who founded it. And his ship was used in many, many battles that was, of course, part of the founding of Athens and all this stuff. So his ship is famous. Like, he's the greatest king. He's like, oh, my God. So his ship ends up being preserved, right? And I think that's the way the story goes. It ends up being either way, the ship takes damage over time, and it rots and all this stuff, and they have to completely replace all the timber and rigging and everything over many years. And so Herodotus, I think it was, is that the guy who told the story originally?
Yes.
Pose the thought question, the thought experiment. Is it really the same ship? So to start over a little bit, so you have this.
The completion of the thought experiment is you have this complete ship made out of new parts, but exactly as the Theseus ship was when it was in service. Now imagine if someone took all the scrap parts, the stuff that they took off to make this brand new ship, and assembled all these pieces back into what it was before the restoration. So now you have a ship with new parts based entirely off of the original design of the ship. But you also have the second ship made out of the rotten parts, but they're the original parts. The planking that Theseus himself stepped on.
Right.
Between these two ships, which one is the real ship of Theseus?
Which one is the real ship of Theseus? And this is what will awaken the shit out of you real quick, because you can apply this exactly to your body. Your body is no different at all. What makes you you? Is it the stuff, or is it the legend that you are? And is the legend even what you are if that also changes and mutates over time, because it does? So what are you, right? It's the same question you can apply to yourself. So think of your own body. You're conceived. You're basically a pet sperm and egg that two people mated together, and You're a zygote pet that forms, and all of the material in your body right now, if you're over 20, for sure, every single atom in your body has been replaced with the exception of some enamel on your teeth. Everything else has been exchanged at least once. That, yes, even in your bones. The stuff that you think is like really hard and permanent, the atoms in your bones have been completely swapped out.
Your cells completely replaced. I think it's every 7 years.
I think 15 on the outside, right? So it's like 7 to 15 years, your body completely rejuvenates.
Yeah, so are you or are you the dust on your bookshelf?
Right. So this is where, I mean, you've really got to go here spiritually, guys, to really get what's going to happen to you and what you are. You've really, really, really got to look at this. So what are you then? So the ship of Theseus is really good because if you're a hard materialist, then those old planks are more the ship of Theseus than the one that follows.
Technically, it's not even the original ship. It's the experience soaked into the planks that makes it the original.
Right. But just like us, so the other interpretation of that would be if you made an exact copy of the ship of Theseus right next to it, which would be, well, obviously the one that was the first one, right? But if it's a gradual enough change, then the identity, the being, the soul, the spirit of the ship of Theseus will transfer to the new one. The reason why this is important is because that's what's happening to you all the time. Okay. Of course, this is with the interpretation that time passes and you're not a consciousness moving through a block time universe. If you see the universe as block time, then nothing is moving at all. It's your consciousness that's moving like a needle on a record player. If you like, that's how I see it. But even if you don't, you have to accept that this sense of self is what's moving through the material. So the myth, the legend of the ship of Theseus is moving through the wood through time. And yes, you would end up with sort of two ships of Theseus. One might be inferior, one inferior, and one superior. That's a tough question because that'll never happen.
See, that's the interesting part of Theseus' ship is technically there is no objective right answer. There can never be. It's the point of you considering the two ships and where it takes your mind that is the benefit, not finding the answer.
And we have to remember that there is no such thing as solid reality, solid matter. There is no such thing as permanence. So even when you're telling me that, so here's where you can objectively deconstruct both of those answers in a way. Because those planks that you're saying are the original planks, they're also not the original planks. Because the matter changes substantially over time. Not just the decay of the matter. I mean, the vibration of the atoms wiggles around from moment to moment, and the exact configuration of that plank of wood will say that Theseus stood on is never the same one twice. Just like that saying you can never stand in the same river twice. Because it's not the same man and it's not the same river. So you really can't even say that those original pieces are the ship of Theseus. That's why I say if a materialist, someone who really focuses on the matter, thinking that that is the reality, don't realize that what they think that they're looking at is a reification of a holographic phenomenon, a shadow of what's really going on. So, like I give the analogy all the time, if I look at this lighter that's always in my hand, if I got this lighter here, this lighter doesn't exist as a lighter. It's a collection of force fields that my experience interprets into something I call a lighter. Plato's form of a lighter just emerges. So I see the lighter, but what's really here is a collection of force fields. Now, the fucked up thing about force fields, forces only exist a force only exists when it is encountered by something oppositional or resistant to it. So if I push you, Aaron, and you totally receive that push in equal measure, you feel nothing. If, on the other hand, you don't go with it, you feel a force. So this object that I'm holding in my hand only exists because something about me resists its existence. There's a sense of limitation going on. There's a sense of denial going on. This is
which interestingly interacts with quantum mechanics.
Exactly.
Because I'll bring up a famous experiment where they fired a stream of electrons at a plate that had 2 slits in it. And there was an electrosensitive plate behind it to record where the electrons fell. Now, if the electrons weren't observed at all, like cameras, nothing, if it wasn't observed at all, the electrons firing through the 2 plates show similarity to a wave with gradation between the 2 slits and outwards. If there was any attempt to observe the electron whatsoever, either before or after it went through the slit and hit the plate, it would show as they would show as particles, not waves, where there's 2 definitive bars.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double slit experiment, and that's basically when quantum mechanics really started to become a thing, because they couldn't explain why this was happening. So they realized that, so they had to develop a theory of why this works. The current Copenhagen, which I think is the bullshit explanation, to be honest with you, is that the act of observing collapses the waveform and you get one reality out of it. The problem that I have with this is that really to me the multiverse, the many worlds theory is the only one that makes sense, because what I think is happening is that all the possible positions for all of these particles, and particles are really only constructive wave interference, when you have the position of all these particles could be everywhere, and they are everywhere. The thing that is happening, so let me put it to you this way. When we're talking about physics, and we talk about observation, and Einstein's talking about from the position of an observer and all this, what's the observer in all of these things? And some people are going to say humans. No, it's not humans.
No, it's awareness gathered in enough of a place to realize relativity.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean then that awareness in that sense is oppositional to the wave form of matter, because that would be the resistive force that makes it sum up into a particle?
In a manner of speaking, yes, with one exception again, and that is the understanding that time as a moving, flowing thing is illusory. Time is a valid experience. I'm not saying you don't experience time. We all experience time. But time as we experience it is also illusory, just like solidness and all these other things. Time is what happens when consciousness, which is infinite, limits itself locally, not just in the dimension of space, but also in the dimension of time. The dimension of time is just another direction, like up, down, left, and right. It's just... It's a direction in which we see things develop instead of... So you exist, we'll say, as... Let's say there's just one timeline. Just to make it an easier thing. We'll make it a 2-dimensional object instead of 50 dimensions so we can understand it. You exist in one timeline, just for argument's sake. So you are simultaneously all of the atoms and molecules that will ever be you spread throughout the universe, and all of the atoms and molecules that you will eventually be spread out throughout the universe. So that's 2 big clouds of infinity, right? And in between, there's a period where you're coalescing into a zygote, forming into a human, becoming you, flowing through that, old man death, and then dispersing again into nature. As one solid pattern, huge and enormous in multidimensional space. And time is just a narrow now moment of here and now. But that's the dimension of time, all of those things. So think of a 2-dimensional universe for a moment, and you pass a ball through it. What would you see? You'd see something appear out of nothing, and it would build and grow until it reaches full size, and then it would shrink and then disappear again. That's basically what you're doing. So you are an object, we'll say, because that's the only easy, because this isn't literally the exact truth. But for argument's sake, you're an object that is passing through, we're going to correct that in a minute, passing through a 2-dimensional field called time. The reality is, time is that entirety the experience of time is a two-dimensional slice of experience. So your experience of time is quite literally no different than a video, not a video, but a shutter film, being played on a screen. What you think of as movement is just a snapshot of everything that exists. And of course, encoded into that existence are the forces, the conceptualization of the forces. We see things happening. So think of a fractal for a moment. A fractal doesn't change. Once you've completed the fractal, mathematics, everything that develops in the fractal is not really developing. It's there. It's inherent in the mathematical argument in the equation. So when you solve that equation, you print out this infinitely complex self-symmetry pattern that happens over and over again. It's never exactly the same pattern, but it does repeat. And if you look at it here, it looks static, nothing's moving. And if you start zooming into it, it will start growing and changing and evolving, and it will look like things are forming out of nowhere and appearing and coming out of nothing and then going back to nothing. That's what you're doing. Your consciousness is moving through not a two-dimensional fractal, a hyperdimensional fractal. Hyperspace, for lack of a better word, a hyperspace fractal. That fractal doesn't change. It's a static object. So your consciousness moves through it, and you see that this universe develop in a way that looks like time. So your personal identity in all of this, we get back to the Eleusinian mysteries because that's where everything gets crazy again. When you explore the Eleusinian mysteries, and you have a moment of ego death, and you're no longer locked into this I am me, because that's the whole story. Hades goes, he abducts Persephone. Persephone goes into the underworld with him. He, some say, tricks her into eating some pomegranate seeds, so she has to come back. And there's this big hullabaloo where Demeter's looking for her, and that causes winter, and all kinds of hell breaks loose, and the Olympians get all involved, and at the end of this whole thing, it explains the seasons. That's how our stupid, anthropologists look at it. Oh, well, it's really just a myth to explain the seasons. No, it has way more meaning, especially to the mystery schools.
See, all right, so I will just hop in here a minute. Yeah, I mean, it probably did literally explain the seasons, but the fact that the seasons are arguably a fractal of our own understanding of our place in the world itself means that it's true on either level, no matter which one you look at.
Yeah, and I mean, and I was reading some of the comments.
Like, are you the winter season, the spring season, summer season? Even once the cycle goes back around, are you spring again?
Mm-hmm. It really does. I mean, the cyclic nature of things is part of the illusion, because for the reality as a cycle is a circle, and it only looks like a cycle when you're on the edge of the wheel, when you're riding around it. But when you see the whole thing as one thing, it's just a circle. So it stops being a cycle in a way, right? It just becomes a thing. So this is why the Ouroboros, people don't know the hidden meaning of that symbol. They go, oh, it means life and rebirth. Yes, that's true. I'm not disputing that. That's the level 1 meaning, just like when you first learn about yourself with these, ego death ontologies. Level 1 is understanding the Ouroboros is eternal life through rebirth. Very good. That's the cycle of samsara, in case people didn't realize. It's the exact same symbol. It's just a different picture. So what it actually is, the Ouroboros is actually like the final boss on your path to divinity. Quite literally. Because you have to conquer the cycle of life and death to become an immortal divinity. Immortality, by the way, means stagnation and peace and bliss and oblivion, by the way.
But aren't you already an immortal divine being?
Of course.
You're just wearing a personality right now.
Exactly. So what I'm getting at is the Ouroboros is ignorance. It's avidya. in the Sanskrit. It's divine ignorance. It's not mortal stupidity ignorance, like I'm just a dumbass. It's ignorance in the divine sense, where what happened is this, okay? I like using the word chaos lately, because chaos is like a Western version of Brahman. It's basically the same word, especially when you get back to the original meaning of it. It's basically the same word. Chaos, infinite chaos, primordial chaos, is what you are. And chaos, of course, is conscious, or consciousness, depending upon how you like to rip things apart. Especially if you like a non-dual answer. Everything is chaos, period. Chaos doesn't mean disorder. It means emptiness. And the emptiness they're talking about means gap. It means like gap or like hollow or space, whatever. The emptiness that they're talking about is devoid of not things in the sense that it's literal emptiness. It means devoid of things in the meaningful sense. It means that nothing is identified, recognized, or patterned. So imagine a Rorschach ink blot before you look at it. That's chaos. Before you have a chance to even identify the contrast between the light and dark, that is chaos at that moment. The moment you begin to identify things in it, it stops being pure chaos. It starts to form. You get forms out of it. You get, just like in the primordials, you have primordial chaos. And what was the first, entities that were born out of it, right? They understood that the first things that would form would be these dualities and these contrasts and these things that would give birth to everything else. So chaos is Brahman, for lack of another. If you know what Brahman is, you know what chaos is.
Chaos is the summation of all possibilities, regardless of probability.
Right. Everything that can be is in chaos. So it doesn't mean disordered. It means unrecognized. It means gap.
Technically, it doesn't even mean disorder, because if all things are possible, if all things are possible, then that also includes the order that you apparently see, regardless of how you conceive it.
Correct. So it doesn't. The modern interpretation of the word chaos is disorder, because we perverted the word over the millennia. But the original meaning was gap. Literally gap. So this chaos is conscious, and it's all things possible. And when you think of all things that are possible, you actually have a zero-sum equation, okay? Because everything in a dualistic sense has its opposite. When you combine all opposites, you get zero. Positive 1 and negative 1 is 0. Remember, there is duality is an experience. It's part of the illusion, but it is there as part of the illusion. Like, it's just they're not separate. That's the non-dual.
Yeah. How I like to see it is, if you're aware of the non-dualistic nature, then sometimes even magic involves the occasional suspension of disbelief in that dualistic sense in order to affect what you want.
Oh, for sure, to a point. I mean, my next book, I hopefully will, if it's even something I can communicate properly, will hopefully blow the doors off. A lot of people are going to go, I don't like that because it doesn't fit what they want magic to be, unfortunately. And some people are going to go, holy shit, if this is true. I mean, I've been proving it to myself every day since I started really working on it. So it's a refinement of everything I've done so far, but I don't want to get into that.
See, but that's just it, though. It's like, well, this is a magic how I want. Is your magic working how you want it to?
Right.
No, then it's not the magic that you want.
Right. Good point. So chaos awakens to itself in the following way. Chaos is conscious, or consciousness. Some people like to say Brahman is not a thing, it's consciousness. Some people say consciousness and thingness are the same thing, whatever. Chaos is conscious. And in order to have anything other than this infinity of experience, what do you have to do? You have to initiate avidya, cosmic ignorance, intentionally. You're not broken. This is not a flaw. This isn't something that you have to fix. This is an intentional thing that chaos does. Because in order for chaos to be everything, for everything to be a meaningful concept, there also has to be finiteness. So for infinity to exist, finite must also exist. That means chaos must be capable of experiencing either extreme at any time.
Yeah, chaos must experience order to know as chaos is.
Right. It must. So you must. So you must know your mortality to know immortality. They both must be true and experienced for either one to exist.
See,
So,
to bring that back into probably a more practical way of doing things, I've tried to include this practically in my own life. Is in our own lives, we have a semblance of order to our own lives. These routines, these rituals that sometimes we do not understand or are aware of in any particular way. They're just kind of there. You like your coffee a certain way. You like structuring the activities of your day in a certain manner because you're just used to it. You're not just used to it. That appeases the conscious mind's idea of how things should be.
What if I told you you weren't doing any of that stuff? What if I told you you're experiencing those things and your ego's identifying and associating with those things, therefore giving you an anchor point for your awareness to fixate on so you feel alive?
You're kind of getting ahead of me here. Hold
on.
Okay. So what I've done is a conscious rebellion against my own self-inflicted order. Basically, every day, if there's a set way I like to do things, I do the opposite. It doesn't matter if it's pleasurable or nice or I like it or not. I do things in a different way so that I understand the order I create in my own life is something self-inflicted and thus can be self-destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody can do this, and you'd be surprised how liberating it is not having to follow the script that you've created for yourself. Because that script is created by the ego. And so by rebelling against this script, even if it is displeasurable, you're disproving the ego's control over what you believe to be self.
Yeah, so the ego has to awaken to the fact that it is not the true self. It is a mask for the true self. It is a tool. It is meant to be cherished and loved, but it is not meant to be exalted. Because it really has no power at all whatsoever. Even when we say it creates this, we're giving it more power than it actually has. It's a hand puppet, that the true self plays with itself with, and it identifies with everything that it does because that's how it. So chaos.
Chaos is the origin of the thing you do to dissent. Let's say you like Raisin Bran. Let's say one day you eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch for the fuck of it. No particular reason. There's no explanation. That's just what sounded good when you picked it up at the supermarket. Is Raisin Bran your conscious choice of ego? Is Cinnamon Toast Crunch the chaos that ensues? Or is this all just an illusion created by the higher self so it can feel good about itself in choosing Raisin Bran?
So let's go with Spirit X Diesel says 1999 goal. Thank you, my friend, for the sticker. I love that sticker. It's one of my favorites. And Donnie Brasco says I lost the game. Not sure what game we're talking about, but I hope you can win it eventually, or at least be okay with losing. Sometimes losing is part of the fun. All right, so back to what you're saying. So I will, in my next book, hopefully you will like what I'm saying, because I'm not going to touch that question too much more right now, because this is not quite where I want to go just yet. So, but let's continue back with what I was saying. So the question you've probably heard before: can God make a rock that God can't move? So let's assume God, it's just a good theistic argument. Let's say there's an all-powerful God, can do anything. Can that God make a rock that God can't move? And if so, how? And if not, why? Of course, it's a paradox to most people. There is an answer I can give you, and I'm going to give you. But that's a paradox that keeps people up at night if they're a theist, especially if they're a theist that believes in an all-powerful God. The answer to that, unless you want to attempt it, I can give it to you.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. The answer to that riddle is very simple. An all-powerful God would only need to create a rock and an ant, and the rock could be the size of a pebble, if it's a little too big for the ant to move, then forget through ignorance, and ignorance doesn't mean, what ignorance means, the root word of ignorance is ignore. So that all-powerful God, being all-powerful, would need to ignore its all-powerfulness for a little while through ignorance, literally forget that it's God, and manifest as the ant. Or even be the rock, because the rock can't move itself, can it? So it manifests a rock and an ant, and that ant can't move the rock. So it becomes the ant through ignorance. For a little while, it believes it's the ant. So that satisfies the first part. It was able to make a rock it could move. Now how does it satisfy the second part? How does it remain all-powerful? Because eventually it will awaken and realize it did all of it and can undo all of it at any time.
Yeah, that's the idea, is if the rock is these routines and habits that come so readily to us that we forget their meaning, then by rebelling against them, we understand our own power, not just in forming them, of changing them when we choose.
So the routines and patterns are just patterns in the fractal, and the fractal doesn't move. You move through the fractal, according to my theory anyway.
Yeah, but our normal waking minds are used to the fractal as it sits.
Correct. So what's actually changing is not, you didn't stop eating Frosted Flakes. That's your ego talking. What happened is your consciousness shifted the timeline of focus that it was on. Or, since we're talking about something as mundane as just Frosted Flakes and Wheaties and all this stuff, it could be that you're on the same timeline you've always been on, and you're having the illusory belief that you've changed it. Like you said before, there's different ways to interpret it. But the thing is that if you have a breakthrough of consciousness and you recognize the ego for what it is, and if you can reach that state in your practices, it is possible to shift consciously through timelines. There are limits because your psyche can't handle everything, right? Your psyche will break down. You will enter Lovecraftian levels of cosmic madness and cosmic horror. If you really saw the entirety of chaos for what it is, you'd be burned to a crisp, conscious, psyche-wise. If you could right now travel to the ends of the universe instantly and be anything that you want to be, you couldn't handle that much of a shift, okay? Because even in your lucid dreams, you still have to have plausibility. Even in a lucid dream, there has to be a reason in your consciousness that you accept for what's possible. Even if you are able to do unthinkably cool shit, which a lot of us can in a lucid dream, you still have a sense of limitation, even if it's a very big one. You still have a sense of limitation. And part of the reason why you're able to do this shit in a lucid dream is because you don't believe you're really doing it. You believe you're lucid dreaming. You're like, I'm asleep, so I can do what I want. Haha. What if I told you really were doing those things in another reality? But it doesn't seem like it because you're convinced you're in a dream. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not another reality. That might not be what's happening. But your psyche is able to handle it because you believe that it's rational in that moment. Because you would, to put it another way, if you're having a dream and you're not having a lucid dream and your hand gets cut off and you don't feel anything, it's totally rational for that because you're not going to be, you might be like, wow, that's weird, I don't feel pain, but you're not freaking the fuck out going, this isn't reality. You're accepting it as reality because of the way it flowed together, because of the logic of the dream made sense to you at the time. But sometimes we wake up in the dream and we go, oh, I'm dreaming, that's why this is happening. And then we get powers over the dream. And of course, with maybe some exceptions, most people wake up within moments of realizing they're having a lucid dream. They get to have some fun and they wake up pretty quick after that, right? The rest of the way. Maybe that's because if you continued on that lucid dream of all-powerful divinity, you'd realize that's what you really are and you'd have a little trouble. Because when you wake up, you go, why can't I do that? So the illusion of limitation, which is the Ouroboros. It's the illusion of ignorance, the illusion of mortality, the illusion of ignorance, the illusion of death and life and limitation is a necessary feature for you having this experience.
See, that's kind of what I was getting at. If you call the habituation that we all tend to do as the dream, consciously rebelling against it is just applying the idea of a lucid dream in the quote-unquote waking world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's really so much that I'll have to save for the book that would be hours of conversation. But so
that's why I found interesting. It's like I started collating and percolating all this stuff, and literally the next day you're like, I'm releasing this thing on intuitive magic. I'm like, fuck.
So it began. I mean, I can give you the summation of what this is about, although I probably shouldn't, because people are like, oh, I really
no, save it. We're on the same wavelength. I'll just read about it when it comes out.
So it began because my friend Mark Bunker sent me an email thanking me for teaching him intuitive magic. I didn't even realize I was teaching that, because I do. Obviously, that's a big piece of it, as I tell you to follow your intuition and things. But I never realized how much I haven't really focused on that part, because over the last year or so, getting back into this, of course, trying to be current and trying to be educated. I'm reading all this stuff and following videos about magic and learning about Golden Dawn. And there's things I like in Wicca and things I hate in Wicca. And there's things I love in Norse. And I'm just pulling at all these different eclectic things and going, I'm learning this, I'm learning this. And you know what I found? My power in magic was going down, to be brutally honest. My ability to manifest was shrinking. As my knowledge expanded and the patterns and, as you call them, habits, became more rigid in, well, that's what that symbol means, and that's what that symbol means, and I should apply that symbol because it looks cool. As I did that, all of the breakthroughs I had early on started, I struggled with them. And I said, aw. Unfortunately, that's going to get our thing fucked up. Hold on. Hopefully that doesn't get triggered, because that's a popular song. So as I realized that, and I said, well, what was the difference? Well, I've always been best at just intuitively going with the flow in the moment, and that's my ritual. And I've always been proud of the fact that I'm uneducated in magic. And even mysticism, to be brutally honest. People listen to me like, where'd you learn all this? A little bit, I should say a lot of Alan Watts, to be fair, but not much of what I say you'll find in Alan Watts. I basically intuited / comprehended / whatever. Everything I'm telling you came out of my own just broad reach of understanding of life. No one taught me this. I'm self-originated in a lot of ways. The seeds were planted by other people, but the full thing, all me. So,
actually, that's something I was going to get into next, that I've done and learned through chthonic sorcery, is that a lot of the stuff you're going to get, the best possible exercise you can do is the word association psychological test applied more broadly. For those people who don't know what that is, it's where the examiner says a word. There's an established list of words, there's other words. They say the word, and you are supposed to say the first word that comes to mind right there. It has to be rapid. It has to be instantaneous. The reason is because they want to get past what your conscious mind filters into how it's processing what is said instead. I've gone through the process of basically applying this to my practice. Like, for instance, like you brought up in the Eleusinian mystery, Hades and Persephone. What I would do is like, all right, Hades, look them up. All right, so what are some common symbols, myths, ideas that are associated with them? I would write down a few key ones in the paper, and then I would just fold that paper up, put it somewhere where I could find it again pretty easy, forget about it for a couple days. And then I would come back to it in a few days, like normally 3-4 days, open it up, and for each entry, the first thing that came to mind, I would write down. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be a word. It could be a symbol. It could be a color. It could be a sensation. And as I did this, I started finding that as I included these things that percolated out once I did the word association, when I included those in my magical workings in some way, the connection was so much stronger, sometimes completely instantaneous. I didn't have to actively try to work with these entities in these ways at all. It just came out once I started including these things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the strongest ones for me was working with Orcus, which, if you want to ask me about that, or if anybody wants to ask me about that prior message, go on ahead, but I'll do the summation. He's associated with Tartarus, which is the area of Hades specifically for horrible people. Like, these are, like, quote-unquote, objectively horrible people that probably deserve the torments of hell, which is what Tartarus was for a time. It was the precursor to hell. So, in it, I did some research. I found that a lot of the torments in Tartarus follow two main veins. That of a burden of some sort. So I wrote down burden. And, sorry.
That's okay.
Looking through notes. The second was imprisonment. So I wrote these two down, put it in a paper, forgot about it for a couple days, and came back. The first word that came to mind with burden was boulder, probably because it sounds similar.
Mm-hmm.
And imprisonment was chain, because chains are often used in imprisonment. So from that point forward, working with Orcus, I tried to in some way through visualization include chains and boulders in some way to work with them. This gets up to a second point, at least for me in chthonic sorcery, is including sensory inputs, including your body in meditation. Because whether anybody realizes it or not, a vast majority of your meditation out there is going to be body exclusive. It's just like, to be honest, how many times do you meditate or visualize or all that, and your body's just sitting there like a puppet not being used?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit. So my way of thinking is, if the chthonic saw your body as wholly as any other part of you, it should also be equally included in these workings that you seek to do. So I took this idea of chains and boulder, and when I decided to do my visualization, the closest thing to chains and a boulder I had was a book bag that I filled as much as I could with heavy hardcover books. So you throw that on you and you feel like you're going to fall over sidewards. There's a boulder chained to your back. And then when I did my visualization meditation with them, having that physical reminder of what I associate with Orcus and his domain on my body as I meditated, at least for me, made the meditation far more grounded, far more, I guess you could say, lucid.
Mm-hmm.
It's that idea that because your body's experiencing it with the rest of you, there is not that conception that there's a separation.
Yeah, I think that's useful. I mean, with meditation's a fuzzy word because it doesn't really mean anything. It means like whatever people want it to mean. But meditation, when done, depending upon the technique you're doing, is a cornerstone of magic. I mean, people. I can always tell when I'm encountering someone who's really a magician or sorcerer versus a bookworm. The bookworm will still get results. Don't get me wrong. You can still get results no matter how you do it. But someone who is just reading out of a book and emulating it like it's a cookbook and sleepwalking through it, basically, like they're performing Hamlet or something, even if they put energy into it, versus someone who's capable of achieving altered states of consciousness through meditative practices, there's a very discernible difference between the two. When I'm watching someone, especially if they're doing channeling, sometimes you can tell us by watching their eyes. Someone who really gets it and can do it, their eyes usually at some point become half-lidded. They get a little dreamy looking, and you can see their consciousness just go night-night, and then they enter this other gazing state of reality, shall we say. Then there's people who they just go, according to the powers of the 5 quarters, I command this and that. And they're just reading out of a book, and they're not, their consciousness hasn't been altered at all. They're just talking. Even if they're talking really good, they're just talking. So I believe things like meditation, like you're describing, like there's a different million ways you can meditate. But certain transcendental meditative forms are really important. I don't think that maybe I'm being elitist and biased, but I don't think you can call yourself truly adept until you can do that. Until you have the ability to achieve certain states of transcendental consciousness. And most of them are a lot easier than people make them sound. The ones I describe in Become the Maelstrom are even the hardest one, which is the empty mind, which is really mindfulness. Mindfulness is a version of empty mind. Even empty mind is simplistic compared to some of the stuff you can learn to do.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, you can achieve empty mind by driving as long as you don't encounter anything weird.
Exactly. It's really an easy one to get. People think it's really hard. I can't stop thinking. You do it all the time. It's just you're not conscious of it because you're too busy thinking. Your ego identifies too much with the thoughts and not with the presence. That's why I say in the opening description of the book, you are not your thoughts, you're the space between them. Because I want people to go, what does that even mean? Well, everybody's got, especially if you're a subvocal thinker. You know, I don't visualize very well. I do visualize, but not very well. I'm more of a subvocal thinker when I do think. It's a chatter. And guess what? I can turn that off very, very easily. Very easily. Except for when I'm feeling really anxious and egoistic. Then it's harder. You know, like someone says a snide remark to me, if I let it in, if it hits, shall we say, I've got to do effort to not silence my mind. You cannot cause your mind to be silent. You cannot think your mind silent. What you have to do is shift your attention off of the mind onto the silence in between the thoughts or onto the activity of the body or the breathing. Any one of those things is fine. Once you've disassociated yourself with the blah, blah, blahs or the visual shit in your mind, you start just experiencing again. Then the left brain. So what I'm trying to teach you to do with no mind is to actually bring the left brain into heal. Because when you're born, you're mostly right brain. In fact, you're pretty much all right brain until you're around age 7. At that point, like the left brain fully online. The right brain does most of all the functions. So you still have ego in there. It's not like you don't have any thoughts. It's just your right brain, which is the more passive and receptive side, is the one that's active. As your brain matures, the left brain comes more and more online, and that's when your real chattering ego starts to form. I mean, really take over. And the left brain starts to bully the right brain, and you get, yes, they cooperate, you feel like one person, but you really kind of have two people in your head. You just don't realize it. And the one is silent, and the one is very loud and noisy. Yes.
Yeah. To bring it back to the subject of this conversation, the best way to view, as you just stated, is that left passive receptive falls in line with the chthonic way of viewing and orienting yourself in the world.
I like that, because the one's the subconscious.
And the other one, I think it's the left you said, is the very orderly, the very conscious. That's the Olympic side. That's the side that we have been taught for centuries and centuries and centuries to listen to above all else. Now, don't get me wrong.
Especially in the Western culture. In the Eastern culture.
Yeah, especially in the Western culture. Yeah. Now, it has its time and place, but, you know, when you're trying to do anything above and beyond, you know, the basic work with your hands, you kind of need to turn it off a little bit in order to get anywhere.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal, right? So here's the goal of all Eastern meditative schools, and probably Western too, the ones that get it. You're trying to retrain the brain back into a state of high neuroplasticity from youth, where the left and right hemispheres are cooperating rather than fighting about who should be in charge. The left brain is your... the left brain is the part of your brain that makes the final decision for most of your actions. Not all, because you do have that cerebral element where I got burned and you jump, right? You have that reflexive brain. But when it comes to conscious decision making, the left brain is what makes the final decision of the decision process, unless it's a dire emergency. So when you're driving a car, your subconscious decides when to make the turn long before your left brain is conscious of it. Then your left brain becomes conscious of the decision, and then it makes the final decision. It looks at everything and goes, okay, there's nothing coming. I do need to go to the store. Yes, we're making a left, right? It sort of assumes the final. So imagine like a captain of a ship being advised by all the crew what to do. The captain still is the one who says, make it so, but everybody else is really what's doing it. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Western world, because the analytical side is so successful in the material part of the world, which is where we're centered, as if you remember from your Trinity of Self stuff, you're so centered in that material awareness, really, because it's all one world. When I say it's an astral world, material world, that's sort of a way to say it. I will be correcting that in future stuff. They're one world, okay? It's just you're focused on the materiality part. So when the Western mind is really focused on the materiality part, to the exclusion, unfortunately, of the subconscious side, the passive side. This is actually one of the reasons why the Western world is so successful, but also so fucked up. And I don't mean that like Western is bad. I mean that in the sense that, because it's not. That's not what I'm saying. But the Western mind is way too focused on being locked up in your head. Way too focused on overthinking everything, and anxiety is the result. Anxiety leads to all kinds of shit. So,
yeah, that's why I said, going back to rebelling against your habituation.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you realize it or not, your mind can get very anxious about maintaining that habituation. So consciously, willfully, mindfully rebelling against it, and even some minute kind of bullshit ways that not seem to matter. That trains you to, my left brain, I forget which side is the analytical or not. The non-analytical side.
Right. The left brain is the analytical anxiety.
Yeah, the right brain, the non-analytical side. When you rebel against your habits, it forces you to be passive and receptive to what happens as a result of your rebellion before your analytical side kicks in. Because if your analytical side had its way, you would be doing your habit right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the goal of the meditations that I prescribe is to learn to bring the left and right hemispheres of your brain into better relationships so that the one doesn't overpower the other all the time. The left brain is a bully, and it's a big bright it's the sun in the planetary thing. It's the big bright thing that you can't really see without nor see with.
Helios.
It's basically Helios, yes. Unfortunately for you. It's the big bright ball that gets in your way. It's actually where your ego sits, is in the left brain. So your ego's like, I'm this, I'm that. Well, that's your left brain doing that.
See that's funny too, because there are some schools of Chthonic thought that are even in the Egyptian where for at least half the day, the sun is in the underworld. So even the sun is not particularly an above world order entity.
No. Because when you go to deep-ass sleep, where does the ego go? The subconscious is in control when you're in deep-ass sleep, for sure. So that's it. Like, I love you brought that up with the chthonic or the underworld stuff, because it really is. It really is the subconscious side. And the demons are more subconscious than the angels are more cerebral and all that. It's absolutely true. So as we look at all this is why this is all so beautiful. This is why I started out by saying we have to realize that the mythologies of the past and the ancient, this is where I get really pissed off in a nice way, in a righteous Jesus flipping the tables kind of way, at the theistic side of spirituality. The theistic side meaning the superstitious side. I don't necessarily mean theistic, but I mean the superstitious people that think that all of the stuff I'm talking about is really just a way to worship this and that and bow down to this and hopefully get a good afterlife, and magic is really just begging gods for this and that. That kind of shit is is it is the shit that has been stepped on and tracked through the house. That's what that is. To me, it is so worthless. It has to be cleansed from our spiritual seeking. It serves no purpose other than to completely blind you, and just, it's useless. The reality is these mythologies were a way to transmit really deep truths about being through time and space for the learned, the educated, the initiates of the mysteries to understand. That's really what it is. And one of the big pieces of that puzzle is recognizing that the ancients knew that you could be deified. So the Olympian gods, all of these gods were most likely, if we go back to the Indo-Europeans again, and probably before, maybe Atlantis, like we go all the way back to whatever the first cultures were. The origin of Deus Pater, Zeus, Baal-Hadad, Indra, Thor, all of these archetypes that is the same basic guy with different stories around them, so different cultural metaphors around them, was probably once upon a time a chieftain who killed his father and took over and saved the kingdom from his father's evil rule. You know, Kronos wasn't a good guy, really, right? And Kronos replaced his father. Now, of course, that might also be dynastic, right? So Deus Pater might have just been the one son who just finally kicked his old father's order out and just took. However you want to interpret it, it was probably a person who took over and saved the empire, the kingdom, the tribe, whatever, and was deified for it, was mythologized and deified. And the interesting thing is, since our identities are all egregoric, since your spirit, we'll say, is egregoric, your being is immortal and forever. It's chaos itself. But your identified being, your I am this person, is an egregore. Because it's not even something you fucking created originally. It's something that was co-created between you and your family, and you project outwards and people project onto you, and where the two projections meet is what you think you are. So, and what everyone thinks you are. That egregore is real, and it's alive. This is why we can create egregores out of imaginary friends and have them literally become beings that people know. I mean, like you said with Batman split and lives in many different minds and hearts, and there's different Batmans living right now, and they're all alive because they all evolve in fanfic and imagination and all. That's a living being. So you are an egregore. Not you, but the person you think you are is an egregore. This egregore, what do you think happens to it when the body is no longer the focus of your conscious attention because it disperses? That egregore is still in the minds of the collective conscious, and your consciousness can inhabit that bigger egregore if it wishes. So you can have, Zeus can literally be alive with consciousness and be a living being, probably very enlightened and knows what it is. But it still plays Zeus because it's a way for consciousness to live in multiple people, to have the experience of multiple being at once. Think of it this way. Your brain, when I talk about mind, I'm not talking about what the processes of your brain. Mind in a spiritual sense is something completely different. Mind is the attention, the process of intention, of attention. So mind is the searchlight that scans reality for what it wants to know. But the brain is something that the mind is focused on in a spiritual sense. So the activities of the brain, the things that you call thoughts and the way your body feels, you have to remember your consciousness isn't focused on your body. It's actually focused on your brain. Your brain is the keyhole through which consciousness is looking right now. And it's not even your brain, the meat that it's focused on. It's on the electrical impulses flying around. Gee, I wonder why. Probably because that's closer to what it is. That's the intermediary force. Probably. Something magnetic, probably. Maybe the water, the dipole mechanism of water. Maybe. That's one theory. So consciousness is focused on that. That's where your consciousness looks through a little tiny pinhole of awareness that is filtered through a body, and it's very dumb. But consciousness should be able to pull back and focus on a lot more. But if you think about it, this brain that you think you are, most of, if you're a normal person, you think you're a brain. right? Most people who aren't into spirituality, well, I'm just a brain in a skull. That's all I am. Okay, so you're a brain in a skull. That brain in your skull is made up of several billion or whatever neurons. So your brain is actually the consciousness of all of those cells in an aggregate way. And in a macroscopic way, you can center your attention anywhere on your body at any time, to the exclusion of other parts if you're really good at it. Like, you can, you know, I've said this analogy before, if you drop something on the floor and you go trying to feel for it and find it, you can completely ignore the sense, you'll forget you even have a foot. You know, if you've got like a really good partner and they're really good at pleasuring you, you forget you've got a head when you're in the middle of the best part of that, right? All you remember is
that depends on which head you're talking about.
Good point. But you know what I'm saying. You can forget you even have a head while that's going on.
You can forget you have a head while you're having head.
Right. Yeah, that's well said. So you can completely focus your awareness into a tiny little pinprick of your own existence. That ability to do that is no different than when consciousness focuses on you to the exclusion of everything else. Well, what happens when it stops focusing on you because this dissolves? Where does it go? Well, it can go back to itself, of course. It can go back to infinity and forget everything. That's fine. Or maybe it's still attached to its ego. So what does it do? Since the activity of the brain stops, but there's other people around that remember you, maybe it pulls back and lives in them as well. Maybe it becomes 20 people instead of one person. And it interacts with the world through the memory of the dead. There's so many ways to look at it. So this could continue exponentially into someone becomes a god, or literally Superman is an egregore that lives and could have consciousness. I don't doubt that. I believe that that's how it works. Of course, that could just be my own ego going, I really hope that there's life after death in the form of an egregore so that I can be that if I want to be. Maybe that's not what happens. Maybe that's all processes in the brain and that all just goes away and we just go back to infinite consciousness. That's also
that's the funny part. This is probably why I don't fear, I mean, I fear the pain of death, but I don't fear death because it's like there's literally no one that's come back from the dead to say what actually happened. So at most you're making a best guess.
Mm-hmm.
At absolute most.
Fleshy is back. Fleshy, when you left, you completely killed everything. I can no longer have video from a source. You broke. Oh no! You broke my Streamlabs. I don't know what you did or why, but it's gone now. So I can't even have. It's just me from. I guess I'm gonna have. Look, you know what pissed me off about Streamlabs, guys? Helnikainen can probably vouch for this because he accidentally watched the stream that I accidentally put up. I was able to capture NDI sources no problem until Flesh Priest arrived. Then he comes on, we figure out a workaround, and then that fucking workaround completely crashes the minute he crashes. And I can't get it back.
What can I say? I'm so powerful that when I go down, I don't go down solo. I fucking take everything with me.
Yep.
Thanks for disembodying me. I've been a voice from beyond for an hour and a half.
Like, I'm looking right now. I can't get you guys back. I really want to. I'm really annoyed by it. It's like, I'm glad I'm not paying for this.
What? Yeah, I don't know what I can say other than, you know, maybe my universe wanted you to have this experience for a little while. I don't know if it's to keep us humble. I don't know what it is, but hey, something. I like how you can get your calculator displayed on the screen, but not.
And it's not
apparently.
up. It's not up. I have not opened that calculator right. In fact, let me see what's on my calculator. Fuck it. It's not even showing that either. It's like nothing's working. I don't understand it, dude. I don't know. Maybe it's because I am transmitting my screen to you guys. Let me see if that does it. Let me try that. Maybe it's like some kind of glitch because I'm screen sharing. What you want to bet?
I don't think that's it.
Yeah, that was it. That was like exactly it. That was exactly it.
Was it really? Are we on now?
You're on now.
Okay, cool. So I can't see us, but you guys can see us. So that's all Gucci here.
Wow, what a slap in every one of my dicks. Let me check the other thing. Let me see if this will work now. Hold on. How much you want to bet NDI works perfectly? How much you want to bet? I'm willing to bet you a potato. Let's get a potato out.
I want to check too. Our guest. What are you going by on here? I don't want to accidentally say your name if you're not using that publicly.
Just Aaron. Aaron's
okay,
fine.
Aaron.
That's what's displaying.
Aaron, I appreciate the fact that you were covering my place while I was getting back in. I caught that whole witch head joke right before the call, so I appreciate you. Good job, sir.
No problem. I've been accused of thinking with either head, rarely both.
Yeah, it's hard to get the blood flowing to both at the same time.
Gotta do some cardio.
Let's face it, too. For me, I've got about 2 brain cells working up here, but the caffeine keeps them overclocked, so I've got a lot more thought process that can happen in the other one.
Okay, let me ask you guys now. Do you guys see me okay?
I can, yeah.
You guys see me okay? All right, so I have pretty much solved for why. So this is what I have to do next time. Thank you for... Everyone was here. You saw me learn. You saw me learn live on camera. The way this works is I have to get you all on. Once you guys are on and set up, then, and only then, can I do the magic where I can share my screen with you guys. So that's what fucked up. Now we know, and knowing is the whole battle in this case. All right, guys, so I feel less stupid, but also way more stupid at the same time. That's really embarrassing. Thank you so much, everyone. You were all here to witness it. Jackass said, "Stop fiddling with it." I love Jackass. I love the memes that individual provides to us on Discord. A meme artist after my own heart.
I'm fucking jealous too, Jackass. If that picture you posted of yourself is what you look like, I am fucking envious of that mustache, dude. This is me like 5 days without shaving. I can't grow facial hair.
Is it on the Discord?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he posted a picture of himself a while back.
Yeah, Jackass. Share it again. Put it in the mystical pictures, whatever that was, in the really pretty pictures. Put it there. I want to see it. So, all right.
That's why I'm sad. I had to trim back my beard because like a week ago I could do the full hook twinge.
I was sad because I was getting the Alan Watts chin beard, but it was starting to get like weird, and I didn't like it. Honestly, the only way to grow these things is you got to grow like a full mountain man, apocalypse beard, and then cut it to what you want it. That's what you have to do.
My goal in life is to have a Gandalf beard, and I'm probably not going to get it until I look as old as Gandalf. But god damn it, I'm going to get it.
And I've got curly red hair for a beard, so it's frustrating.
I've got the same thing. I don't think it comes through on camera, but yeah, the longer it gets, you get that strong tinge of red. It looks like my beard is rusting, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, it's weird because I have black hair, right? Unless you get really close, you see I actually have blonde and red in it. But my facial hair and all my, everything else is a shade of brownish red. So it's like I'm a stealth ginger, I guess. If I shave, you won't know that I'm a ginger. It's pretty funny.
I always knew you had no soul.
I don't. I really don't.
I'm glad somebody said it. I was about to.
So what were we talking about? I caught some magical talk right before I fucking interrupted everything like I always do. And you're the people of your life tend to to interrupt around this
They're not
moment.
taking the hint. This is not a good night. I'll be back.
Oh no. Well, Aaron, it's just you and I now. What do you want to overthrow DH's channel now that he's not here?
Sure. I can summon the Chthonic spirits to put darkness upon his channel until he relinquishes it to us.
Yeah, fuck. Everybody in chat, lend us your power right now. I'm gonna make a Goku spirit bomb, and we're gonna help take him down. Take him down from the inside. Yeah, so what were you guys chatting about? It sounded like you guys actually had a topic, which, because of this internet outage, I completely missed.
We were talking about the chthonic spirits in the underworld and how the Olympic idea of the divine being separate from everything we're used to is bullshit.
Okay, that's
I have
right.
returned. Stop trying to ruin my channel. I could hear you the whole time. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, I was summoning the spirits to help you kill this naysayer.
Yeah. We were summoning a tower moment for you.
Oh, okay. You know, let me give you guys like a good real estate agent's level of. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
You look more juicy now. Juicy. All right, perfect. But that's over your head, so that's not good. Keep talking, guys. I'm just fucking with everything.
It's fine. It
wouldn't be the first thing that's over my head, so just, roll with it.
I like having Aaron here. He says the things I'm going to say, but better.
It's like, what's that meme from Game of Thrones? What is it? That's what I do. I drink wine and I know things.
Fucking, hey, I know this is really bad timing that I just came on, but I will be right back.
God damn it. You know what? I'm going to do it too. We're going to leave Aaron. Aaron, I'm going to get a drink, bro. You're in charge of the stream, guys.
I'll hold out until you come back then. Hey, we all deserve a little step away every now and then.
Apparently I'm frozen. Apparently I'm fucking frozen because the thing's a douche. What?
Let it go. Let it go.
Everybody. Oh, God.
Oh, not that frozen. Never mind.
Come on, man. As soon as I get everything working.
Wow. So what? With the chthonic spirits, that's
Buggy
and
shit.
I am so fucking just baseline educated at best with all of this. That's like the Persephone ritual and everything.
It's like related? Everything with the underworld and like surface level Earth stuff.
Okay.
So like basically all the deific sky things that give the kings their power to fuck us over, just forget them. Just forget them and you'll be fine.
I give up. No video for me, guys. I'm gone. Forget it.
Yes, we've successfully used
this. Is ridiculous, man.
I didn't think the spirit bomb would actually work.
It really worked, dude. You've completely fucked up the whole thing. I blame you for everything. Oh my god. Like really?
I rip others down with me.
This is ridiculous, though. Like I'm not even. So I bet just because I'm sharing the screen, let me unshare the screen again, because that seems to be the fucking problem. Every time. Every bug seems to be because I'm scaring them. Oh, shut up.
See, this is why I need to just host this shit.
No.
Like, it will be janky, but...
Yeah, no.
So this is a case where sharing is flaring.
Sharing is wrong. We don't do that. All right, let me...
I love that raven print behind you, by the way, Aaron.
That was actually a Christmas gift to my wife back when she followed Odin for like 3 weeks and then said no the second I got her the painting.
Yeah, there's something about that misty aesthetic and everything that I just resonate with so much.
Yeah, like my absolute favorite artwork is if you go to, what is it, Cryo Chamber, and it's called, what is it, Iron Cthulhu Mythos on YouTube. All of their background photos for like their hour-long videos of creepy music, love them. Wish I could get prints.
Oh yeah, just the whole Cryo Chamber, just in general. I know DH is a big fan of them too. Just they got. I wouldn't say they have a mood for everything, but they have a mood for everything dark and introspective and gloomy, which is exactly what I need.
All right, I give up. This thing's all fucking busted, man. This is ridiculous.
Actually, the funny thing about that is there for a while I was using Cryo Chamber to go to sleep. I remember, like, one instance I woke up and I said out loud, I slept like shit, but those dreams were amazing.
I'm gonna leave the call and come right back. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, we'll see how this works.
Because my webcam's not turning off now, no matter what I do.
You
know, hey, fuck it. You guys can well, we're gonna end in a minute anyway, because it's getting late, right? What time is it? Yeah, we're gonna end pretty soon anyway. So.
Okay, well, tell you.
So how does it feel to be? So how does it feel to be the mystical voice from beyond now? Huh?
I guess it sucks.
So hey, before we leave, can I send us off with the story write-in that one of our viewers had?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Absolutely, because we wanted to do that earlier, and we were gonna have fun with it. So.
Yeah. Hold on. All my tabs crashed out, so let me just.
Don't even get me started. Nothing's working on my end. Nothing.
I know, tonight's the night for it.
All right, so just with how this is going, let me try something. Loki, if this is you, please stop. I cannot tell you how many fucking times something like this happens. I forget my keys somewhere, or something happens, and I acknowledge Loki and say, "Stop it, you little fucker!" And the keys pop up in the same place I look 3 fucking times.
Loki, you better get back in your cage. Don't make me get the stallion.
That's right.
We have a super chat from Donnie Brasco. Says, how much do I have to pay to have a reenactment of the Last Supper? DH, Flesh Priest, EA Cowedding / other magicians, scantily clad or togas. You know what? We'll do it for free as long as you supply the plane tickets to get us all in one place.
The plane tickets and the costuming. I will gladly show up wherever you want me if you can give me something cool to wear.
Yeah, you provide that, and we'll do the photo itself, no charge. Also, appreciate the super chat.
And now no one's got video.
We are united.
Great, we're all banished to the shadow realm. Son of a bitch.
This fucking sucks.
We're facing the shadows together.
We are.
Okay.
These pricks are bastards tonight. I'm going to tell you right now.
I'm looking at the chat, and people are like, don't blame Loki. Yes, I will fucking blame Loki. He fucks with my shit every 3rd day. And how I know it's him is the second I acknowledge him, that's when shit starts working right.
All right, I'm ready with the story if you want to hear it.
Oh, yeah, let it rip.
Wait, gotta get my hot cocoa, gotta get a blanket.
So this is an experience that a viewer and good Discord buddy in our server, Vladius Valerius, I think I pronounced that right, wrote into me with. And by the way, if you have a story that you think is interesting, join our Discord and I will let you all know how to send that in because I want to make this a regular thing. So, Vladius wrote, I've been studying the occult since I was a child, but I've only been practicing for a few years and I'm still inexperienced. There are entities and subjects that I avoid out of respect, and I don't believe that I'm ready for one reason or another. One of these entities for a long time was Lilith. To be honest, I did not think she would want to work with me. I do most of my ritual work with Asmodeus and Lucifer, and while working with Asmodeus, I tend to get the message that if something makes you uncomfortable, that's the direction you need to explore. I began this exploration with Thorne's Demon in Review, Lilith. In this video, he talked about the ritual oil for Lilith, containing grave dirt. I figured this would be the best place to start, so I was off to the local cemeteries to find grave dirt. I had never collected grave dirt, so when I decided to walk through multiple cemeteries until something felt right. At the 3rd cemetery, I noticed a pentagram on one of the headstones and stopped to look around more. There were Masonic stars in a section of the cemetery that was all Confederate soldiers. On the site of an old fortification, I realized this is where I was supposed to be. Looking around the graves, and I was having some trouble deciding where I should gather the dirt from. In this part of the cemetery there was an old tree. Upon further inspection, I realized that the roots of the tree ran into every grave, and was lifting some of the headstones up. I decided to gather dirt from the base of this tree since it had been drawing energy from every grave. I knelt down and began to collect the dirt when I noticed something shiny beside me. It was a black snake coiled up looking at me. I stood up and it just looked at me. I made quick movements and it just watched. No aggression, no fear, just observation. It was not until I tried to pull out my phone and take a picture so that someone would hopefully believe the story that it turned and slithered into a hole at the base of the tree. I finished collecting my dirt and said thank you and then walked away. I've attached a picture which I could share if my video was working,
unfortunately. Your video's working again.
Oh, it is? Oh,
Yep.
fucking bitchin'. Let me pull that up.
Except for him, which I still find hilarious.
Yep.
Oh, God. Let me get back to it. I attached a picture of the ritual I did after this experience. Is that actually showing? Oh, no, it is not. Here we go. I've attached a picture of the ritual I did after this experience. This is the reaction I got from just a small amount of alcohol, salt, and an offering of blood and a single pink rose from my garden. The experience was so much more than I expected. The ritual was a simple introduction, and the only emotion I could describe it was to feel accepted and loved.
Oh. Look at that. Let me see.
Yeah, I love the way that wraps. Are you able to see it, Thorne?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, bitchin'.
Look at it, everybody.
Yeah, that fire looks fucking spectacular.
Look at it.
But yeah, do you think snakes in this context have any significance?
With Lilith, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have not worked with Lilith, so I would not know.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I worked with her like twice, and I got the sense that it would not be a good connection, so I just said, hey, good job. Later.
There are alternative tellings of the story where Lilith was the one who put the serpent up to tempting Eve. There's so many different variations of these things depending upon your interpretation.
Inclination.
Stuff. Yeah.
And actually, there's an angel in Hebrewic mysticism known as Layla, and considering that there's similar verbiage, and she is the angel of like the nice version of everything Lilith is.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly believe that they were just, separated sides of the same entity early on in Abrahamic faith.
Yeah, and don't forget all this, at least the Abrahamic stuff, really comes from Mesopotamian lore with Sumeria and the Canaanites and all that, because the ancient Israelites were really just, a splinter tribe, shall we say, of nomadic people that were born of and made up of the people from those regions. So they believed in all the
I
same
actually
gods
got
and
like
all
a theory/story time for that I think makes sense. It's a bit of a long tell, maybe about 5 minutes. Basically, if you look back in ancient Egyptian history, there is a point in time under the pharaoh Akhenaten where there was a push for a one god cult, and that was the state religion and everything.
Mm-hmm.
This happened fairly early. My personal belief, I haven't found anything to discredit it, is that the Israelites were this cult after the pharaoh died. Because once he died, the polytheistic old religion came right back and tried to erase it, not as like just a general cult, but as a state religion. As a cult, it still stayed around, but was kind of ostracized. So the whole story is, at least in my mind, the cult of Aten did an exodus out, but not as slaves. Egypt really didn't have much in the way of slaves, so I'm not going to get into that. It transplanted out into what is today Israel, and so they started invading, they started conquering, but they found syncretizing themselves with the people they were conquering was the best way to get them on their side. So they found a lovely little wind god named Yahweh in Canaan religion and syncretized it with Aten, and that's where we get, the Abrahamic one god Yahweh.
Okay. I remember hearing one group said that Yahweh was a chieftain, a warrior chieftain. So, could be. Could be.
I mean, that's just my take on it. I like to think it's internally consistent, but yeah.
It could be. No, I mean, don't forget, there's people who will syncretize Yahweh with Enlil. Not Enlil, On. Yeah, there's like all these different people. I guess it was Enlil. Yeah, Enlil, and Enki was eventually Lucifer, but then Enki's way more like the way Jesus is. It's like, this is why I get miffed, because at some point you have to stop. At some point we have to realize that,
A rose by any other name.
I mean, none of this is literal, right? That's the part where I think we have to stop being stupid. None of this is literal. It's fun to hypothesize where they come from because that's meaningful anthropologically, of course. But there is no literal Lilith or literal Yahweh or literal Baal. Just like there's no literal Zeus on a literal... I mean, there might be a mount that they call Olympus, but there's no literal...
Actually, there is a literal Mount Olympus in Greece.
Right. But that's like an idol for like all the Olympians in a way.
Yeah, they consider it too sacred to climb on. So as I said, there's the Omphale stone. That's the fake Olympus. Mm-hmm. You throw your offerings on that fucking thing, and supposedly the gods of Olympus taste it. I don't know.
Right, but that's my point. It's like, but there is no literal. Like it's all egregoric.
It's not as the myth states, even if there is some real world representation of it.
There's definitely real world representation, but that's the idol, shall we say. You know, egregores can have idols. Like, I mean, obviously. And you are the idol for your egregore. And there's definitely things that people can use as the idol for their egregore stories. But the idea that these things came first as literal gods and then we appear, right? So like creationists. Like, I'm basically refuting the pagan version of a creationist. There are people that take these things very superstitious and literal, and this is why they stumble and fall. And this is why they in my opinion, they'll still have a lot of success. I'm not saying they won't, because you're playing with symbolism, so it's still going to work for you. It worked for people throughout history. But I think that when put to the test, they're going to fail. I mean, this is what skeptics know. They know that magic is not literal the way that Hollywood makes it look. Magic is something different. It's an acausal relationship that you have with reality. You know, you can do a bibbidi-bobbidi-boo and something just like what you asked for happens. But it doesn't mean you caused it, because there's literally no connection between you and the outcome other than the fact that you did a ritual, which is acausal. So one would say you didn't cause it. It's synchronistic. It's a coincidence. It's a meaningful coincidence. So anyway, back with the spirits in the same sense, people who take these things really literally, this is why you can go to a church and burn it down and their God won't save you. Because I love when people join Satanism because they're like, well, Jesus never did anything for me and Satan does. I'm like, really what you're telling me is that you were looking for it in a different way and so you saw it. I don't think that, I like to be fair in my left-hand path approach. I'm not left-hand path like I'm taking tribal sides against, the Abrahamic God, right? I'm not spiritually racist like that. I'm not bigoted like that. I dislike.
He's got an awful fan club, but
yeah, I cannot.
And really, if you look at everything just what Jesus said and did in his life, he is far more Luciferian than what anybody is willing to admit.
Oh, I'm willing to admit it, because during his day and age, he was the quintessential Luciferian, if we believe the story. If it was literally true on any level, then that character was quite the libertarian Luciferian in almost every respectable way.
But then again, I'll support almost anybody who chases church merch people with a whip.
and so... Yeah, so I am not opposed to their belief, whatever. Spiritual freedom is spiritual freedom, and everybody has
to... I'm opposed to it only in the fact that they think everybody should think roughly the same way.
Hey, that's true, but that's also a part of the religion. You just made a monolith out of Christians, because there's a lot of Christians who don't think that way. So...
Hey, I didn't say that all of them think that way. I just saying I'm against that way of thinking that's in there.
Which is fine, but it puts you in opposition to the whole monolith, which it's like, just like we say, like, oh, there's definitely terrorists that are Muslim, but there's not, Muslims are not terrorists by and large. So that's the same kind of thing. This is what I see, because when I walk through my life in the left-hand path, if I post something positive about Jesus at all, I get the real tribalistic idiots will send me death threats, literally. You're not, Satan hates people like you. You're going to be destroyed. I'm going to come find you. Like, all right, block. if you're really left-hand path, prove it to me by being able to talk to Yahweh. And not feel like his slave.
See, all right, so the funny part is, at one part in my life, I did do that. I tried to be the good little Christian for like, I think it was a period of about 6 months. Yeah, I got something. It felt weird as shit, but I got something.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised that way, and I never had a bad experience in it. Unlike most people who join Satanism is because they had a bad experience with Christianity. It's not because they don't really agree with it. Most people, not all, no monoliths, right? But a large majority of the people who become satanic, left-hand path, pagan, blah 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 blah, is because they had the bad experience with Brand X. They got let down by the religion of Brand X, and that's just a fact. It's literally a fact. It's not because I've encountered so many of these people when I ask them, well, why don't you like Christianity? Well, because it makes no sense. Well, what doesn't make sense? I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying, what exactly was it? Well, blah, blah, blah. And it was always the same kind of sob story about the nuns were mean and I was this and that. And it's never really deep rebuttal of the religion. It's not. Excuse me. It's not a deep rebuttal of the mythology. It's a deep rebuttal of the religion itself, which that I get. I'm not even saying that the mythology is good or bad. I'm just saying most people are mad not at the mythology but at the religion part. And because I know this because I've
totally understandable.
Totally understandable. And someday, in a couple hundred years, maybe 1,000 years, people will be looking at us, at what we believe, the same way. Because it's going to be religiousized eventually. You can't tell me that people like me and Ian were not the precursors, perhaps, if it survives, of a future spin-off religion. Anton LaVey isn't the initiator of a far-flung religion 1,000 years from now? Probably. And people will be mad at that religion because religions get perverted every single fucking time. So, fuck them, There is no hope for humanity in this case. There's just no hope. Humanity has a long way to go before we stop doing this shit.
Which, I'll admit, I was kind of in that club. I started looking into first paganism and then general occultism from the point of, I don't like what Christianity was doing, but that's because I always viewed spirituality as something, I can learn from this to be a person I want to be. And then I saw, not saying all Christians, but, the mainstream Christians tended towards. And I was like, I don't want to be that.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to become a part of the hive. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe anywhere in the actual texts of the canonical Bible does it say that you need church at all.
No. Actually, in I forget what passages, Jesus Christ himself said, the affairs between you, our God, are between you and him when you pray. He said closet. The technical term is closet, but it means like a private place in your home. Your spirituality, your religion is between you and God in that private place in your home, and that's it. He hated these people who have to pray before crowds.
Yep. And I agree with that. See, a lot of people don't realize it's not so bad. The thing that people get worked up about, because everyone's so identitarian these days, is that, they said this about, homosexuality, or they said this about this sin that I like, and people get really, they lose focus on, like, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, is what I'm saying. Because we have to remember what I said earlier in the stream, which Fleshy wasn't here for. Our modern morality and ethics are going to be different because our culture and society are different. And they're different for reasons than theirs was. Doesn't mean it was okay, but it means instead of seeing it as, oh my God, this religion, this belief system is horrible because it doesn't like something that I like, religions evolve. Faiths evolve, morality evolves, systems evolve. I know a lot of homosexual priests. I know a lot of lesbian priests who shouldn't be priests according to the religion, but they still lead a Christian.
There's the flesh priest.
They lead a Christian congregation, interestingly. And you have the diehard Bible thumpers who hate them, but guess what? They don't get to decide that, because what you just said a minute ago, Aaron, is the truth. It's between you and whatever your God is in a closet, basically.
See that's the interesting part that, like, nobody wants to talk about, is that the Torah, and then this later continue on certain elements in the Bible, it wasn't just a religious text. It was an entire body of law, of custom and norm for the Jewish people.
Yep.
The idea was wherever the book went, their society went. Wherever their society went, it could take root and flourish. Taking something like, the whole point about no homosexuals or this or that as the word of God telling you not to do it is like saying George Washington once said you should not eat figs, and then we as Americans should never eat figs again.
Yeah. And some of the reasons for why, now I'm not trying to be an apologist here, because I'm not. But some of the things people get really bent out of shape for are misunderstandings of what, like you're saying, of what was meant and who was meant to listen to it and why. All I'm going to say is, there was once a pragmatic reason for a lot of the things that are sinful. That is to say, pragmatic reasons why they're sinful. You go back to antiquity, people go, well, why the fuck were the Jews so you're not allowed to have milk and meat in the same bowl, or milk from a mother's meat and everything? People don't realize that was a source of a lot of disease at the time. If you had a milk bowl and a meat bowl that were the same bowl, you could die. Because
cross-contamination.
Yeah. So it became a sin. So people were encouraged not to do it. This is why a lot of these things that we get all bent out of shape over today were sins at the time. Not because they're like bigoted, it becomes bigotry over time because of the way things happen, yes, but it wasn't necessarily because people were bigoted always once upon a time. There was reasons for it. Now, I don't know them all, so I'm not going to defend them all. Okay, there are reasons that they believe certain things that were purely for spiritual reasons. Mainly because they had the sin of Onan, which I believe is really the source for why you were not supposed to be a homosexual, because it's considered a form of the sin of Onan, because your seed is spilling upon the ground, because every seed is sacred and everything has the divine spark in it, and so you must use it for that is the idea that led to...
This leads into another problem, in that when you set things down in word like that, it can be misinterpreted.
Correct.
From the reprint, from the translation,
yes.
from the rescript. Because the one passage that specifically states homosexuality is wrong is man shall not lay with man. But the literal translation from the original Hebrew was man shall not lay with boy. It was castigating pedophilia, not homosexuality.
Wow, big if true. Big if true. Now, see, here's my point. This is why when people, again, a lot of people encounter the current incarnation of like Westboro Baptists and this shit because they got it all twisted, and so they throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. How many people would be Christian right now if it never had a word to say about homosexuality? I'm asking this with all love and kindness to my current rainbow friends, okay? I say that as a jesting way of saying it. You know what I mean.
No, I know, yeah. I mean, I still want it, but I'm not everybody.
Right. I mean, you might have different reasons for it, but how many people, as a hypothetical question, would...
I think there would be quite a few, because that is a big sticking point for a lot of people, is how can you continue to support this organization and this faith that does not even accept you?
And here's the issue that I have with that side of the conversation. They don't like when they are treated as a monolith. So why is it okay for it to be done in reverse? I don't like that. I disagree with that, because I've run into many open-minded, like say a universalist. Some people have a problem with that. They're like non-dual Christians. They believe everything is God. They think everything is love, and we should. They're not twisted like that. But yet everyone has to be tribalistic and stupid because that's the point. That's what. And Aaron and I are going to dip into politics. We're not going to do it. That
was a good stream, everybody.
That is the game plan, is to divide and conquer our culture that way. And it's not new. This is always done throughout history.
I think I'm getting internet connection problems again.
Boo. Yeah, because like for a while there, I was going to a Unitarian Universalist church, which, you know, any good Satan worshiping Satanist would be like, "Oh, you fucking pansy, you're selling out to Christ, yada 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 yada." The one I went to, if you've never been to a Unitarian Universalist church, they are vastly different one-to-one. They pay vague lip service to Christianity because that's where it started. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them have distilled 90% of the bullshit out of the Christian religion to get at the good stuff. Like the one I went to, they delved into like philosophy. Yep. Like I remember I went to a service talking about the good shit from Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For real. And they are more, shall we say, they're like the Zen school of Christianity in a way, because they rip out a lot of the extraneous bullshit and just focus on the fundamental message. I'm not giving them lips. I'm not saying go to be a Unitarian.
Although I will say this. Go once to see how it is. If you don't like it from there, go on ahead. But you owe yourself the service of going once just to see how it is. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're talking about canonical Christianity. That Bible is a crock of shit because it's a recent creation that was created. Well, when I say recent, I mean it came way after Christianity started. And it was created using astrological, zodiacal stuff that people don't even realize. It's like if Christians knew their own religion, they'd run screaming from it. Because it would be like, it's everything they're told not to be, and
One of my sticking points with that is I think it was in the 500s, the Council of Nicaea. I love this because you hear a lot of Christians like the Bible is the Word of God. The Council of Nicaea was literally, all right, we have all these books from the Torah, all these books that can be included in a new Bible. What can we trim out so it is the most conformist, establishment promoting book on the planet?
Bingo. Because it was always intended to be a way to save the empire. That was always its intention. Unfortunately, it fucked up.
The canonical Bible, not the stuff that came directly out of Jerusalem after Christ died. I want to make that aware.
Look, people are like, Rome fell. No, Rome turned into the Christian religion. That's what Rome turned into.
Yeah, basically, if you want to know how and why the Christianity became so good at absorbing and conquering other faiths, that's when Rome took Christianity and went, you know what, this is going to be us now.
Right, because we can't hold on to our empire the old school way. We've got to do it the spiritual way, and it worked. It really worked, and that's the only. Rome never stopped. Okay, it just became a religion, and if you watch that movie, which I do think is based, let's put it this way, I think that this movie, the movie in the book, Caesar's Messiah, is like close enough to the truth that it's good enough. Like, you know, like it's if we can believe the Christian version of it, we can believe this too. I mean, this is just as good in my opinion. There's probably a lot wrong with it, but it's probably in the right direction of truth. So,
yeah, when I think of it, I think of a work of fiction. I'm sure you're well aware of, is the Elder Scrolls. It's just, you know, we're worshiping Talos, just not with that name, and it doesn't come with all the little cool bonuses.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, don't forget, I mean, that's why I do find it funny, because like as soon as you start talking about Lovecraft, you get the Humanius Mora guys come running out like, oh, it's Yog-Sothoth, it's Yog, and it is funny because you got to give it to the Skyrim guys, you know. Skyrim, I mean, the Elder Scrolls people, the guy who invented it, it was once a D&D campaign and custom homebrew, and it, you know, it's based, as the D&D stuff is, on real world pagan traditions and stuff too, a little bit.
All right.
You know, so of course it's going to have elements.
Then I'm going to like briefly sidetrack into something you'll love, and I'm not sure you know about in the Elder Scrolls universe. There is the ultimate like expression of non-dualism in fiction in there, but it is very, very well hidden.
Oh, okay.
In the Elder Scrolls universe, there's this idea, it's basically kind of reality, that all of it is a dream. Now, the thing is, the second you become aware that you are just this figment of a dream, two things can happen. Either A, you have complete dissolution. Like, not even your soul exists. You're like, I am nothing, therefore you become absolute nothing, you disintegrate. There's not a speck of you left in the universe. The other direction you can go.
Path of Vivek, baby.
Yes, Vivek and Talos technically did this too, is to say, well, I'm coterminous with all of the dream, therefore I'm coterminous with the dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
I am something because I make myself something, even in the vastness that is everything. That's where Vivek went from being a fake god, a prophet, to a real god. That's where Talos became the ninth divine.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because that's a saying that I've had for a while. You are the dreamer and the dream. There's no separation.
If you want to look for it, like if you want to go on the Elder Scrolls wiki or whatnot, it probably explains it better than I do. It's called Khim, Khim.
And
you gotta look at the wheel sideways.
The level 1 version again is you are the dreamer and the dream as one. Here's the real thing: the dreamer and the dream as one exists within what you really are. It's even bigger. So there's a lot of levels to the non-dual awakening.
Like with certain games and stuff like that, I thoroughly think there's like this like cabal of occultists that want to get their crap out there. They just keep contacting these game companies like, no, this shit. The fans will like it. It's just mystical sounding bullshit.
The fact of the matter is,
because they all play D&D and Lucifer is speaking through D&D.
The fact of the matter is there's one of two possibilities, and they're both probably true. The collective conscious can't help itself because the collective conscious knows all of this is true on some level, at least parts of it. And it will absolutely bleed out into culture. It's inevitable. This is why the gods persist, even long after there's no reason for them to continue. That's why they persist culturally, and they reappear because they're archetypal metaphors that keep happening over. They're inevitable. It's inevitable that a human being will envision a sky god and eventually something like a Zeus will pop out. Eventually. In the collective conscious, it is always going to be there. So some of this is going to pop out in our fiction because it's built into our myth, into our life, into our human experience. The other layer of truth is that the hidden masters, the ascended masters are real. The secret societies are all real. All of that shit's real in a way. And they do want individuals to figure it out because they are constantly evolving the species through this shit. All the bad stuff that we see and don't like, all the stuff that's making me mad about the current administrations of this and the current machinations of that, I'm not saying it's all controlled because a lot of it gets off the rails, but the general aim is a kind of refinement or crucible for the ultimate outcome. And we've got a bot. Fuck you, bot.
Yeah, I'm on it.
You got him? Fuck you, bot. Prawnbot 8000. Hot girls are looking for my action right now. Call.
Man, I got another tab I got to open.
Man, that reminds me of a meme I saw. It was from The Mummy, the dude riding on the wing, and the caption was, "When I'm on a plane and my phone says hot MILFs in my area."
Oh.
Donnie
I was
Brasco.
distracted. That took me a second. We have a super chat from Donnie Brasco again. He says, Ego post. I hated God since I was 5. Lucifer was finding the love and peace others find in Christ. Mm-hmm. P.S. Love all this late chit-chat. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you,
Thank
Donnie.
you, dude.
And yeah, I mean, here's the thing. One of the scariest, if I was still a Christian, one of the scariest moments I've ever had in Magic, and I wasn't a Christian at the time, so it wasn't that scary, was when I did a mirror gazing and I was like, who is this? Who am I contacting? And I wrote about it. It was the first time I really gazed to find Lucifer, and that's why I always say Lucifer. I don't want to get into that whole stream. That was a really fun stream, talking about the syncretizations between Lucifer and Venus and Poseidon and Neptune and all that, Enki. But Lucifer is very associated with mirrors for very obvious reasons, and especially if you see Lucifer as a Venusian archetype, because the meaning of the mirror of Venus isn't vanity, or at least not just vanity. It's actually reflection, true reflection, real gnosis of the self. Okay, that's what it really is. That's really what it's meant to be. So Lucifer is the archetype of. They say archetype is the father. Lucifer is the father of lies. Here's the thing: what that really means is that he really knows lies. He knows a liar, right? He knows how to use a liar, to manipulate a liar. He doesn't actually lie. Lucifer is actually very truthful. In fact, Lucifer's never lied to me once. Other spirits have misguided me. Lucifer has never lied to me. So Lucifer, when I was engaging with him in a mirror, and I started talking to him, and I'm like, you sound really familiar. Like this is like, it's not just, I don't mean the sound of the voice, I mean the way it spoke to me. The mood, the tone, the feeling of love, the feeling of acceptance, the feeling of compassion, the feeling of just a little bit of buttering me up, And I'm like, I feel like I've talked to you before. He's like, well, you used to call me Jesus. Ah! I started having like a panic attack because I immediately remembered all the times that I was alone in the woods at night when I was a teenager going through some hard shit, talking to Jesus, and this voice that I'd talked to inside me that I called God. It's what it sounded like. And then he's like, wait till you figure out who I really am. And it started to dawn on me that Lucifer is an archetype of it's like the Nyarlathotep. It's the archetype of our final form. It's our higher guardian angel, the ultimate version of us before we're done. Like before, on our path of ascension, that's the idealized self that loves yourself because it knows you. People say Lucifer is the demon of pride. Well, you actually have to have a good deal of pride to actually work through your flaws, because you actually have to love yourself unconditionally, as only someone who is a little prideful will do. You really have to love yourself unconditionally to be like, I am a fat fuck, I need to lose weight. You really do. And so...
Yeah, like I had a similar experience, but with Loki, as a matter of fact, because, as I said, I constantly looked at Christianity, all these belief systems. I'm like, do you realize the amount of shit you're full of? I'm talking about the toxic elements of these faiths, not the faiths themselves, before we get into that. And it's like, I looked and like I kept finding these flaws, and why don't you see this bullshit? And again, like I thought it was some deity like in my head, just like, yeah, well, they're assholes, they're full of it. They refuse to see they're full of it. And then I was reading up, there's this lovely saga called the Lokasena. If you want to read it, it's awesome. Basically, all the Aesir are talking shit about Loki. Loki steps through the door and calls each and every one of them on every single bullshit that they've tried to hide. All of them. To a person, and none of them can even look him in the eye to refute it, because it is all true. He is the quintessential accuser.
Yep. And let's not.
Every fucking court needs the jester.
And
it's a necessary
but the
role.
thing is that's where I came to understand. Sort of like with Lucifer, it's not that he tells lies; he tells truths that you wish were lies. So you say.
So you lie about. And this is also why he would be a demon of pride, because you will respond pridefully to the accusations that you are getting hit with. I'm not a bad person. How dare you remind me of that? Right? Exactly. So
see that the vibe I got from Loki is not like, oh well, how dare you? It's, you're as bad as I am, and I will waste every breath in my being to tell you.
Well, I mean, the how dare you is your response. I mean, maybe not your personal response, but the how dare you is what people respond with to the accusation.
Yeah.
How dare you point out that I do this and that? Pride is often so the negative side of pride is when you are arrogant, like not arrogant even isn't that bad. Stubborn in your pride. That is to say, like, you don't care that you're fucked up. so you're not going to try to fix it. And
it's the difference between holistic pride and egoic pride. Egoic pride is all about you've got to preserve that ego and the image. Holistic pride is seeing as you are worth going beyond what the ego tries to tell you is there.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, that's true. And there's a reason why Loki basically wins, sort of, in the end. Why his children win. Why his things win in the end. Because the gods are really reaping what they sowed. I mean, that's a big common thing that happens in Norse mythology. Like when you're talking about, oh fuck you, I can't remember, Beowulf, for example. And it turns out it's his all this shit is like all his own actions coming back to haunt him. So, like I'm reminded especially of Fenrir. Fenrir is probably...
I was just about to say this one, yeah.
Fenrir is the one that really breaks my heart because of all of... so Odin and Fenrir are my two favorite characters in Norse mythology. And of course, Odin's wolves and his ravens too. But Fenrir in particular, I have a real soft spot for because that fucker meant well throughout the whole thing, and he was treated the worst because he literally did not. He was just big and scary.
Yeah, literally what it was. He was big and scary. Tyr was the only one with the nerve to actually feed him. So Fenrir was his ward, the one he was trusted with caring for. But because the Aesir got spooked by the prophecy that Fenrir would eat Odin, Tyr got his hand bitten off, and an innocent soul of Fenrir that looks ferocious got bound until he was made a monster by what was done to him, not by his nature. And so even some of the Satru people like to portray Tyr's maiming as the price for being vigilant. No, that was his price for betraying an innocent soul that was trusted to his care.
Absolutely. And just like, this is why a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, there are people who just like with you and the chthonic spirits versus the Olympians, there are people who work with the other side, the Jotunar and all this other stuff, because they really do see that, and they realize that really they're a balancing force that will eventually win out, and then everything will reboot because yes, it's not to say that the Olympians are nothing but bad. They do a lot of noble things, for example. It's not to say that the Aesir, the Vanir, one's better, one's worse or anything. What it really is that there is an imbalance that happens because of the pride of the gods and all this other stuff. And that story in particular, that story in particular is really important and powerful. Look, I mean, even the destruction of Jormungand is the Ouroboros. It's the world serpent. It is that thing, the Midgard serpent, which contains the world and its coils of eternal death. It's samsara again. So of course it's going to come calling, and it's going to get beaten, but it's going to be at a cost. Your ego dies when you destroy Jormungand. That is why Jormungand devours, Thor in the end.
Yeah.
So Thor is the most egoistic out of them all, clearly. So who's the one who's going to fall the hardest to the world serpent? The ego. So look, guys, this is what I said in the very beginning of the chat. It's all in there. I'm not making it up. It's all in the mythology. The mythology, unfortunately, gets turned into superstitious religion, and idiots go around saying, you can't worship what I worship without coming through me because I am the vulva. And it's like, you don't even understand your own shit if you don't know what I'm saying, and I barely even look at it.
Yeah. Like I say, it's chthonic sorcery, but I don't specifically work just with like the chthonic spirits of Greece or whatnot. I see any underworld, earth level entity as chthonic and working with it. I absolutely refuse to the greatest extent that we should limit ourselves by a specific cultural tradition. Yeah. Because like I've called spirits from various traditions or whatnot, and they answer. Generally, I find as long as you respect them and you're a good host, just about any spirit will pop in at least to say hi.
I mean, you can contact any spirit anytime just by thinking about them enough the right way. It doesn't mean you'll get a conscious response, but you will get their spirit. To get a conscious response is another level of conjuring. So, The moment you imagine a spirit, it's there.
I hear you. That's why I didn't really work with Lilith for that long, because I didn't get that conscious response. It's like, yeah, okay, I kind of get you, and you're there, but it's not really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like the first time I ever channeled was with Tiamat, and holy fuck, she will ring your energy body like it's a goddamn church bell. But, you know, it comes to a level of deepness and understanding, and I don't think there's a word for it, like this that you get when you actually connect with them on that level, that, you know, once you experience it, you understand it, but you can never appropriately explain it. Because words fail.
Yeah.
Completely. There's not an assemblage of words in any language that can encapsulate the experience of connecting with an entity on a deep conscious level.
So something funky's going on with the chat here. I'm getting like older chats up with newer ones. But anyway, we're probably going to be closing it down in a minute anyway. But so anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for coming and hang out with us tonight. All of our tech support issues are hilariously funny. I don't know if Mercury's in retro in my water grade or whatever right now, but if it's in my if Gatorade is in my tardigrade right now, I apologize. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for watching. Aaron, thank you for coming and being a nerd with me. Thank you, Flesh Priest, for losing power and all whatever happened to you, so that we could have our time alone.
Thank you for that spirit bomb that knocked Thorne out of video.
Oh, anytime.
Oh, that's great. My camera's probably broken. I'm going to have to buy a new one. I guess my computer is just...
Dude, seriously, how that spirit bomb, you really fucking did it.
Yeah, you did.
What?
So,
what can I say? My magic is chaotic.
So go into the link in the description or at the pinned comment and click the very first link on that link tree to subscribe to my email list, so that you will get updates whenever I upload, especially since the Satanic Panic is back and it's in effect, and prominent people like E.A. Coetting and Timothy Donahue have been taken down because of it. So don't know if they're going to be getting their stuff back, but they will probably announce it sooner or later on their channel. Or maybe they won't. They might not care because Facebook sucks. But YouTube is still there. You can still check them out there. But on Facebook, they are taken down. So hopefully they get it back. But if they don't, show them a little bit of love if you care about them. They're actually pretty good people. So, you know, that's that. But that kind of made me nervous, because I'm like, well, I can see why, with all the crap going around, that Facebook might get a little weird. But if they can get taken down so easily, you know, with false accusations, it can happen to any of us. So in case that ever happens to me, I want to make sure that you guys have a way of getting connected with me. There's a lot of ways to do it. Discord is one. But that first link will get you subscribed to my email list, so that I will be responsible for pumping out stuff to you. Yes, there will be advertisements in it. I apologize. But there's also going to be discount codes and stuff. And it's also going to have content in it, not just upload notifications. But I'm thinking once or twice a month, maybe once every 2 months on the outside, I will be putting like a blog post in there worthy of something for you to read. So hopefully you guys sign up for that. Yes, Fleshy.
And if the email list ever goes down for whatever reason, just attune to my energy and send us an astral messenger pigeon.
Mine's going to be a raven, just letting you know.
Oh, well, that's how I'll know it's you, Aaron.
Well, mine's going to be a dragon, so...
You know what? Yours probably would be some weird fucking dragon Lucifer shit popping up just to freak us out.
It'd be a cum dragon. That's what it would be. Just a little...
I hear the sloshing of scales on the horizon. Either my bad dragon has come in, or Thorne is sending me an astral pigeon.
There we go. Oh, man. Oh, man. You guys, I swear. So
you love us.
I'm going to go be Christian and excise you. All right.
Well,
so,
Aaron, I fucking loved hanging with you, and as always, I loved hanging with you, Thorne, and all you motherfuckers in the chat with us, and everyone watching later.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. I haven't looked at the chat with my ass, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I will try to be better about that, but...
Yeah, well, it'd be easier to see if I was still sharing the screen, if it still worked, but everything's busted on my end, so wah, 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 wah. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe if this is your first time, if you haven't already. I want to thank everybody who dropped us the chats tonight, the super chats. That's really cool of you. I really appreciate it. And I will be hopefully streaming, I think, more often rather than the pre-recorded videos, but we'll see what happens. It will probably be just me though for those streams, so we won't be doing the full show, but it's still fun. So until next, guys, I want you guys to continue mining the shadows. Flesh Priest, bring us out with the beautiful sayings.
Tell your friends and warn your enemies. And never take yourself more seriously than your enemies.
That's right.
Keep it classy, bastards, bitches, and non-binary witches.
Why?
Gotta keep it classy sometimes so that you can enjoy the everything else later. Last minute super chat from Donnie Brasco. I support the CUM Dragon. Good night, y'all. Don't know if we're still going on that.
Me?
I think Thorne dropped out.